Okay, I think we are live. So you guys can let me know in the comments below how it sounds. Make sure everything's working good. I see we got one or two people in here so far, just starting off. So before I already have a couple of questions. So thanks, Spark, for the first couple of questions. Before I get into the questions, I just want to just kind of give the reason why I'm doing this live stream. It's been forever since I've actually done one. I think the last one was back in the spring. It was before I changed the name and everything. So it's been a while now, and so I just wanted to kind of do another one of these because I happen to have some free time here on this Saturday, and figured what better way to spend it than hang out with you guys and answer some of your questions, because I've always enjoyed these in the past. As you can see, this is the 15th one we've done, and they've all been a blast. And I also want to do it just to kind of give some behind the scenes input on the pull apart challenge, the first episode. Hopefully those of you who have been around in the past 12 hours were able to see it, and if not, the link is in the description there to go watch it. The first episode's live. It's gonna be 2 more episodes, and the first one's pretty good, and so I'm eager to hear all your thoughts on it as well. The feedback so far has been really good, and so cool that you guys have been enjoying it. But yeah, so if you have any questions about that, otherwise this will be like all the other live streams. I'll just answer any questions you guys have about cars, or about the channel, whatever it is. I know some people have always liked using this opportunity to ask, what kind of car they should buy and things like that. Although I do answer, if, by the way, if the questions get swamped and all of a sudden we get a ton, because that's usually what happens. If I don't get around to answering your question, you can always send me a Facebook message. That's the easiest way for me to kind of talk with you guys and, answer your questions is on the Facebook page. Send a message, and it usually takes me a couple of days to respond because I get so backed up with messages. But once I can get caught up on them, I can answer your questions there if I don't have time to answer it here today. But yeah, this will probably go for, maybe 2 hours or so, maybe a little more. We'll have to wait and see. They usually end up going longer than that, but that's kind of the starting idea here. So, yeah, I guess I'll get up the first couple of questions here. Spark's asking how reliable a new 2017 Ford Mustang GT V8 is. And it's funny you asked that, Spark, because they're mostly very reliable, but just this past week I had a check engine light come on. And I'll be talking more about that. I'll be doing a Mustang Monday update here this coming Monday and talking more about it in more detail. But basically, it's the best type of check engine light you could ever have, where it just went off because there was a bad purge valve, which is just an emissions thing. Didn't affect the drivability of the car whatsoever, and I was able to drive the car totally normally. Just had to look at a check engine light, but otherwise it was totally fine. And the Coyote V8s have been pretty rock solid with their reliability ever since the first model year back in 2011. They were a little iffy, but now for these new ones, they've been forged and reinforced even more here for the 2015 and ups. And so a very reliable car, takes power very well for the most part. And overall, it's a very, very reliable engine. I think it's the most reliable out of all the Mustang range. The EcoBoost, if you guys have been following me for a while, know the EcoBoost for me was iffy. The V6s are pretty solid too. V8s, definitely, I think, the best as far as reliability goes. But we got a few other people joining us. Welcome, everyone. A couple other questions. What advice do you have for someone starting on YouTube wanting to be as successful as you? So this is another question I get a lot, so we're glad we're knocking them all out right early here. So it's the best advice I can give is to do something unique. There's just about anyone with a GoPro these days can film their own car reviews and throw it up onto YouTube. That's the great thing about YouTube, is there's no barrier of entry. And that's kind of why I got into reviewing cars on YouTube early on as well. I was like, well, I could work for a magazine and try and work my way up and all that kind of stuff, or I can just be my own boss, do whatever I want, set it up on my own and just do my own thing. And so that's great, and anyone can do that. That's how I started. I just bought a camera and started, filming and editing stuff and teaching myself how to film cars, how to edit, videos, and just kind of taught myself all that kind of stuff. But these days, so I started back, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago, before this was really a super common thing. Now there's so many people doing car reviews that see how much fun this is and want to do it, and understandably so. But now it's so hard to stand out from the pack that, I see a lot of people that go into it and they're all excited. They're going to review cars, and then they hit one of two obstacles. It's either they can't find the cars to review because, trying to come up with a car, because, it's all about consistency. If you only post one car review a month or something, people don't know when to expect the next one and don't know if you're taking this seriously or if it's just some fun thing you do randomly. So, consistently being able to post car reviews, every week or however often you want to do them is really challenging. I was very fortunate to have friends that own car dealerships that were like, you can drive anything on the lot. So I basically, right from the get-go, had almost an endless supply of cars. I mean, right when I was really getting started in the first couple of months there, I didn't have access to that yet. And so it was just reviewing friends and family cars, service loaners, that kind of stuff. And, I actually rented a couple of cars from Zipcar as well, just to, get some other vehicles I wanted to review. So that was how I started out with the car stuff. But I guess my biggest thing is, just like I said, make sure you can find a way to be unique and stand out. Because otherwise, if you follow or copy someone else's format, then it's never going to be as good as the original. And, so find a way that you can do something better or different than someone else, and then go for that. And that's a good way to try and stand out from the rest, and hopefully, help it to be successful. But never hurts to try and, see how it goes. But it's definitely a lot of fun, even if you do, even if it is something you find out it's more work than you're expecting, or, something that takes more time than you're expecting, it still is fun, just even to do it as a side hobby. And I know a few people that do that too. Other questions here. Do you dab on the haters? I don't really dab very often, but that's a good question. Thanks. So another question here. Ford has a lot of surprising news Mustang related, including hopefully the upcoming Bullitt and all the new tech for the 2018 Mustang, the 10-speed transmission. But the thing is, will we see the new GT500 in 2018 or 2019, since all the new Mustangs will be out in 2020? So yeah, they have kind of a little bit of a conundrum here with Ford. So I'm still kind of in the dark as well about a lot of this stuff. I have a little bit of an inside scoop on the Bullitt that I'm not allowed to share too much of, but I still don't even know a whole lot about that. But as far as all these other models that are coming, like the GT500, which I think isn't going to even be called the GT500. I'm pretty sure it's going to be called the Cobra, or at least that's kind of what I've heard a little bit, and bring that name back instead of the Shelby name. But we'll have to wait and see what they do. But anyway, as far as the timeline for all this stuff, I don't know. I mean, I think they said that whatever this top dog Mustang is has been in development I think they said they started development on at the same time they started development on the GT350, which was way back in like 2014 or whenever, 2013 even. So this car has been cooking for a long time, and they should have it done soon. But every year I'm like, oh, it's got to be like this year at the Detroit Auto Show. It's got to be this year at the New York Auto Show. And each year has come and gone, and we haven't seen anything. But they can't hold out that much longer. I don't see how they can. I mean, Camaro's been running away. They got the ZL1 that's, blowing everything out of the water. They got, the Challenger Hellcat, for those that just want to go really fast in a straight line, blows everything else out of the water. And Ford has no answer, which really sucks. And so I'm hoping that, this comes soon. I've heard it could be, again, Detroit or New York this year, but your guess is as good as mine as to when that's coming. But they can't wait too much longer. Now, you say 2020, but it's really like the 2020 calendar year is when that car is when the new S650 Mustangs are going to be arriving. But that's going to be the 2021 model year. So they got a little bit of time here. I'd say about 3 years before that, new one is fully in effect. So we got 3 years, to do Bullitt, hopefully Mach 1, and then the Cobra as well. And they can do one each year and nicely space them out. And they can obviously overlap as well. Like the GT500 and the Boss 302 were out at the same time back in 2013. So totally something. They can have more than one performance model. The Bullitt will definitely just be a one-year thing probably. But the Mach 1 could be sold alongside, the Shelby GT350 or the 500, whatever. But yeah, Ford, it's kind of hard to tell what they're going to do, because I always get my hopes up and then I'm always disappointed, it seems. So hopefully they deliver here relatively soon with that new one. Also, Kadra Carr says, I would like to know how likely you are to purchase a new 2018-19 Mustang GT Tremor or Bullitt. The Bullitt, basically, as long as they don't make it too aggressive, like some crazy track package car with a stiff suspension and stuff, as long as they don't go that route with the Bullitt, and as long as the Bullitt can be had for under 50 grand, I am almost certainly buying it. Unless they really do something stupid to screw it up, or make it super limited production where I can't get my hands on one or something like that, then I'll try and find another way to get one. But basically, as long as I can possibly do it, I'm most likely going to get the Bullitt. And so yeah, I'm excited for it. Hopefully that's something that's revealed here in the next couple of months, and I can place an order for one of those soon. All right, other questions here. Galaxy S8 versus iPhone 8. I mean, personally, I've been an iPhone guy ever since the very first one. I've had an iPhone, but I've a lot of friends that enjoy the Androids and stuff, and are very passionate about those as well. I am probably going to be trying to get the iPhone 10 if I can get one within a reasonable amount of time, because those are sounding like they're going to be in really high demand. But I just currently have the iPhone 7 and I like it, but I'm looking forward to hopefully getting the better camera with the 10 and trying out the bigger screen and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but I'm not super hung up on phones and stuff. Do I know anything about the next generation Honda Pilot? I do not. I don't really follow SUVs as closely as performance cars and stuff. But the Honda Pilot's still fairly fresh. I wouldn't expect, maybe it'll be a refresh here, but a fully new next gen version probably won't come for at least another couple of years. Someone's asking, am I going to review an Accord, the new 2.0 model? I'd like to. I've requested one from Honda. We will see what they say. I've been asking for the sport model with the manual because I think that's the one that no one's really covered yet, and also the one that I think most enthusiasts are actually curious about. So we'll see if they can help me out with that, or maybe if an early buyer offers theirs, then I'll be able to review that. Someone says, what is your favorite 3-row midsize crossover? Well, I guess probably the Durango SRT, which I actually haven't driven yet, but just the idea of the Durango SRT makes it probably my favorite. If you don't want something that's quite that large or aggressive, I don't know. Well, another very large one, the Volkswagen Atlas I just reviewed recently, is another one that's actually really impressed me a lot, and is a pretty cool option as well. Nexcelerator says, are you open to collaborating with other automotive YouTube channels regardless of subscriber count? So thanks for your question, Michael. I'm always open to collabing with people. It's just a matter of if it makes sense to do from like a distance standpoint, because most of these people don't live close to me. So, it takes, especially these days, the past like 6 months, I've been so swamped with travel that, whenever I'm home, my time home in here is precious. So if I'm going out of town or traveling for something, it's got to be something where, it's going to be beneficial for the channel. So if it's something that you guys want to see, then that's totally awesome. And I will be happy to like collab with other people and be in their videos. But, putting them in my stuff, it's just a matter of it making sense. But I've done stuff in the past. Like, there's some local guys like Car Guy 11. He's got a small YouTube channel. He's got a C7 Corvette. And, we'll be, appearing in each other's videos, and I'll kind of plug him every once in a while back and forth, things like that. Just because we go to the same Cars and Coffee, we're friends, we hang out and stuff. And so it's just easy and, kind of natural. But yeah, I'm always open to, collab ideas and, seeing where they go. I do have my core group of buddies that you've seen at the Pull Apart Challenge, for example, and stuff like that, that we all enjoy collabing and get along really well. But yeah, other questions here. Do I plan on reviewing a 2013 or 2014 GT500? I would love to if someone offers one. I had someone just recently offer a 2012 GT500, and I'm going to probably try and make plans to review that next year. I'm currently booked up with car reviews. I've got such a backlog, and I have so many things already lined up that I have car reviews that are going to carry me all the way through till March. So I'm like, I can't even start scheduling any additional car reviews until probably April of next year. So I'm getting pretty backed up with that. But yeah, hopefully I can review one of those eventually, because they seem pretty sweet. Other questions here. What do you think about the WS6 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, my dream first car? I've never driven one. They look cool, but honestly, I don't really know much about them. So it's something I'd be totally open to trying out. Again, if someone offered one, it'd be a cool car to review. Smile Per Mile says, any plans to visit Europe/Japan? I am planning to hopefully do Europe here in the next couple of years and take my wife there, because I've been there once before and it was a lot of fun, but she's never been to Europe, so it's definitely something that we want to do together. May potentially do something car related there as well. It might just be like a vacation type of thing, but might want to do something car related as well. I have a couple ideas, but we'll see how things pan out here over the next couple of years. Japan was another place I've always wanted to go to. Japan, especially obviously Tokyo and stuff. I've never had an opportunity to go there, and it's not cheap to fly halfway across the world, but something again I would love to do if given the opportunity someday, but no plans currently. Are you going to review the Kia Stinger? So funny enough, I actually got invited on one of the media drives for it. I think they've already done the first wave of press drives, and you've probably seen, a couple of reviews of that car already. But I'm going to be in LA in the middle of November for a press drive here at the Kia Stinger, and I'm very excited because I have really high hopes for that thing. I mean, just the value proposition of it, the numbers it's putting down. I don't know if you guys saw, they ran a 0 to 60 time. I think, what was it, like 4.3 seconds 0 to 60 or something? A very impressive 0 to 60 time for a car that's 40 grand, you know, starting. I know they can get up closer to 50, 52, but I'm really eager to drive it because I think it's going to be awesome. But yeah, so that review should be up before the end of next month for the Kia Stinger, and yeah, I'm excited about it. What do you think about the Ford Fusion 2.0T? The 2.0T model. So that's what I actually had as a rental car for the month after my Mustang got crushed by the tree. It was the titanium one, and I really liked it, actually. I think strangely enough, actually enjoyed the 2.0T better than the Fusion Sport, because the Sport, with its all-wheel drive and its heavier engine, it felt a lot more nose heavy, it felt a little bulkier and more sluggish than the 2.0T. The 2.0T felt a little sharper and more agile to me, and actually I think I would probably pick that over the Sport, which is crazy, I know, because it's way less horsepower, but I was really impressed by it. I think it's a pretty good car, if you want a nice daily driver that also can be a little bit sporty as well. Chris asked, have you looked at the new Volkswagen T-Roc? I mean, I've seen them. I've talked about them in the weekly updates, but I haven't actually seen one in person, because unfortunately they're not bringing it to the United States, which boggles my mind considering that would be a surefire hit. Everyone loves compact crossovers here, and so I'm sure they'll bring it here eventually. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, interesting that they haven't brought that. But I've seen them, but obviously haven't had a chance to see one in person. David's asking, when will I review the Camry V6? I've been getting a lot of requests in the past month. Everyone's really into the Camry V6, and I would love to review one. I've asked Toyota for one, and hopefully I'll be able to get one of those here sometime this fall or winter, because they have. So I went to that Whopper rally, which is where you saw all those quick drive videos that I posted last week, and hopefully I didn't annoy too many of you with 3 uploads a day there. But they had a Camry there, but it was the 4-cylinder, and I almost drove it, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wait until I can post a video on the V6, because everyone only cares about the V6, it seems. So I'm gonna hopefully drive one of those eventually here. Anything on the 2018 Dodge Journey? I don't think they're going to be even renewing the Journey or keeping it going. That car is really stale at this point. I think the Journey came out in 2010 or something. So it's definitely at the end of its life. I'd be surprised if they even built it for 2018. And so maybe that's why, if you haven't heard anything about it, then maybe they are just discontinuing it or something. Because when I used to work at a car dealership, I would take them. I had to drive them to get gas and things like that. Never was very impressed with the Dodge Journey personally. But other questions here. We're getting a little more backed up here, so I'm going to try and go a little bit quicker. But after a while here, I'm probably just going to go with whatever question pops up first. So if I miss it, you can just re-ask it after a little while here. But what car surprised you the most when reviewing, either good or bad? For recent memory here, the one car that really surprised me was the Chevy Bolt. If you watch the quick drive video, I was visibly shocked whenever I floored it and it took off like it did. For a little, electric cars, everyone thinks Tesla, those are fast, but all these other electric cars you always think are really slow. And so whenever I hopped in the Bolt, I was expecting it to just drive like a slightly faster golf cart. Instead, it was it took off like GTI fast, but it was just instant torque. So it actually felt faster than something like a GTI. And this is really cool. So that was one of the cars that really surprised me the most. I wish I could actually get a Bolt as a press vehicle, because that would be a very cool thing to live with an electric car for a week and kind of talk about what that's like. But unfortunately, the Bolt's range is 238 miles, and I get most of my press cars from DC, and that is, I think, around the same, 230 miles away from here or something like that. So because of that, I don't know if the range would make it. They'd have to stop for a charge break, and that would take it longer and stuff. So I'm not sure if that's something they would ever be able to actually do, at least until the range is better. And that's kind of part of the problem with electric cars still, is always the range. But hopefully that'll get better here with the supercharging stuff with Tesla and whatnot. Motor City Mechanic says, great job on the pull-apart challenge. Looking forward to the other 2 parts. Yeah, I really hope everyone enjoyed it. It was a ton of fun to make, because everyone, whenever I film videos, or any of us that we're in the series, whenever we film videos, it kind of takes a little bit of the fun out of the actual experience of what we're doing, because it's okay, I'm doing this, but I also have to make sure I'm talking about things correctly and not making mistakes. And then you have to make sure you get your camera angles right. And, everything takes twice as long because you have to do something, but then you have to film it. You have to film yourself doing it 3 times and get everything just right and all that kind of stuff. So to just be able to show up, because they actually hired a TV crew for us. Two River Pictures was who we worked with, and they've done like actual TV stuff, for like Food Network and all that kind of stuff. So they're all veterans. So that we literally just showed up. They put a microphone on us, wired us up, and then we walked around and we're free to do whatever. And the cameras just followed us around, and we just were acting like as if we were just doing this as a fun weekend thing. And, the cameras just captured everything. We didn't have to think about it. All the editing, everything, they've put it all together entirely on their own. So it's really nice to just be able to show up, have fun with everyone for a couple of days, and then just, wash our hands of it and, walk off and have them handle everything and it be turning out so spectacularly. I mean, the production value, the quality and everything is just so high on it. I was really super impressed by how good of a job they did. I mean, I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't realize it was going to be that good. And so it was really exciting, and hopefully we can do it again. But yeah, the next 2 episodes it gets better and better for sure. So definitely look forward to those. When can I review a ZL1 1LE, JT asks. I would love to. So the normal Chevy dealer that I work with, Tom Henry Chevy, they would let me review one. The only thing is every 1LE ZL1 they've gotten in has already been pre-sold. So it's obviously someone's personal car. So they're not going to let me drive a car that's already been purchased. But if they do happen to get one in as inventory, within the dealer there, then I'm sure they'd let me take it out for a spin and, do a review on it for you guys. So it just depends on, I guess, when the demand dies down for the 1LE ZL1, because they're super hot and every single one they get in, it's right out the door immediately. So, maybe next year those will cool off maybe a little bit. Who knows? Maybe they'll continue to stay strong. But yeah, hopefully you get to review one eventually. But the thing is, so once you get to the level of the ZL1 1LE, I mean, the standard ZL1 was almost too hard to even review on the streets because the limits are so high that, it's really hard to not get yourself thrown in jail in a car like that. And the 1LE is just even higher limits, which, I didn't even get close to the limits of the standard ZL1, whenever I was reviewing it. So the 1LE is just like, well, this has more grip theoretically, but I can't test it because where am I going to do 120 around a corner? I can't. So, I can't really show off the capabilities of the 1LE, I don't think. But it'd be cool just, again, to drive anyway, just for the fun of it. But I don't think my review would really do the car justice, to be totally honest. Other questions here. Have you heard anything on, okay, that one I already answered. How come the live wasn't in my subscription list? That's weird. I don't know why it didn't show up in your subscription list. YouTube, they're always a little iffy with subscriptions and stuff anyway. That's why I always recommend either signing up for the notifications or, following on social media and stuff so you don't miss things. Because there's still people that are like, wait, I got unsubscribed from you. How did that happen? Or I didn't see this video. Why didn't I get notified and stuff? So YouTube's still a little iffy with that, so that might be part of it. But it should be at least currently the top thing on my on the channel homepage. That should be an easy way to find it for others as well. Other questions here. Nice shirt, man. Honoring one of the best MLB players of all time, Roberto Clemente. Yeah, he's obviously from Pittsburgh. That's where I live here, and he's one of the all-time greats. And I actually got to meet his son and hang out with him a couple of times a few years ago. And he gave me a personal tour of the Clemente Museum here in Pittsburgh, which has a bunch of his personal stuff there, and that's where I got this shirt. But yeah, he was a very inspirational person, and a huge fan of Clemente. Other questions here. In Texas, there was once an unlimited no speed limit highway, but not anymore. Yeah, that would be sweet. I remember, yeah, now it's what, I think 85 is the speed limit there, or maybe 90 on that one toll road in Texas. But there's a road in Montana, too, that I think had no speed limit. I think it still might, but I'm not totally sure. It's been a while since I've heard about it. All right. Other questions here. You think the new Camry V6 will be a good first car, and will you review it? I mentioned the review already that I'll be hopefully doing if Toyota sends me one. But I think as far as being a good first car, yeah, it'd be obviously very safe being a brand new vehicle. And, anything front-wheel drive is always good for a new driver because it's easier to manage usually than something that's rear-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is also good, but yeah, front-wheel drive is good. And a Camry is a very conservatively tuned car and stuff, so it'd be a good first car. Can you troll your subs and do a wood flooring review? No, but it would be funny, obviously whenever April Fool's Day comes around, I did this past year, the review of a tractor, and the year before I did, that I was buying a minivan, even though I wasn't. And then the year before that, I reviewed a golf cart that had been given the Ferrari treatment. You can go back and search for those videos if you're curious. But yeah, always fun to do that at April Fools. Other times of the year, usually people don't take that kind of stuff as well. So I usually just save that stuff for April Fools videos. Did I ever test the Mazda RX-8, and if so, what was the rotary engine like? I did review an RX-8. You can hear all my thoughts about it in the review. You can just Google, my name and Mazda RX-8, and it should come right up. Or you can even just search on the channel for RX-8 and find it there. And all my thoughts are in the videos. A lot of people ask me sometimes, like they'll send me a message after a review and say, "So what did you really think?" Or "So do you have anything else to say about the car?" And although sometimes I'll edit out some things I find unnecessary to keep in the review, usually, I'm always 100% totally honest in my reviews. I don't hold anything back. I'm not rude or brash whenever I, criticize something in a car, but I do make my complaints known. I always include as much as possible in the reviews. So, everything I say in the review is usually all that I have to say on that specific vehicle. So yeah, but you can see all my thoughts there and that. Would you drive a car that ran on French fry oil? I've seen people that have done that a while back, but it seems like a lot of people don't do that as much anymore as they used to, but that would certainly be interesting. All right, any news on the next Nissan Z sports car, rear-wheel drive Silvia? The rumors always go back and forth. I think it's one of those things, okay, can they make a business case for it? It's the same thing with this new RX-9. Mazda's saying, like, they're developing a larger rotary engine. I talked about this in yesterday's weekly update. They're developing a larger rotary engine, but they're like, we can't find a way to justify, building this thing because, there's only two ways to get sports cars built. You either find a way to sell a ton of them and justify your cost that way. You partner with someone else maybe to do that. That's kind of how, like, the new Miata got built, because they weren't going to be able to do another new Miata, but they partnered with Fiat, and then they're like, okay, well, now we can share the costs and we each get a car out of it. Obviously, the same thing, Subaru couldn't afford to do the BRZ on their own, so they partnered with Toyota, and they did it that way. So it's either you do it that way, and that's the only way you can keep it cheap, or you can go ahead and build some crazy awesome sports car like the next Nissan Z, but if you're only selling 500 of them a month, then guess what? They got to be $100,000, and then no one wants to buy them. That's kind of the issue with the Acura NSX. Is the NSX is a really cool car, but no one's buying them. Why? Because they're too expensive, and everyone wants some simple, basic, non-hybrid, not just rear-wheel drive NSX. And sure, you can take those components out of it and make it a little bit cheaper, but in reality, how expensive are two turbos? How expensive is a hybrid system? The hybrid system could get expensive, but turbos and, like an additional drive axle to drive the front wheels, it's not. That kind of stuff isn't that expensive. It's the development costs that make cars expensive. And so, and that's why you can have your Lamborghinis and Ferraris that are crazy awesome, but they're expensive. So it's trying to find that sweet spot of something that's cheap, but also, fast and enjoyable, that sells well. It's really hard to find that. And that's why, you see stuff like the BRZ that just doesn't really sell very well anymore because, they started in 2013. They couldn't afford to do anything beyond basic handling upgrades for the car, and it's just dying on the vine because they said they're going to do a second-gen version, but it's just like they could have done a turbo one, but guess what? That costs more development money, and they could have done this, that, and the other, but they just can't do it because there's a lot of finance stuff behind all this stuff, and it's not just what car companies even want to do. It's what can they afford to do, and they have to be realistic, and that's kind of just the sad reality of it. So very long answer to your question, but basically I don't think Nissan can come up with a business proposition to make a Nissan Z profitable. There's thoughts of them doing a cheaper stripped down version of the Infiniti Q60, basically just using that same exact platform and drivetrain, just giving it Nissan styling and cloth seats instead of leather and a little bit of a simpler interior, and sell it for 35 or 40 grand. Maybe that would sell. I don't know, but that's really all I've heard, and that's kind of the best case scenario I think you could hope for, is just a dumbed down Q60. But your thoughts on the Type R gear grinding epidemic? I just heard about this, and I'm not sure what the deal is with this gear grinding thing going on. I haven't even really read up on it much. I know personally when I drove the Type R, I didn't have any issues. I've driven them now 3 different times. And all 3 times they were fine. Even the one time I was on track, that I just did 2 months ago here, and it was a great car on track, no issues whatsoever. So I'm not sure what the gear grinding thing is about, because I think that might just be maybe there were some faulty units or something. I'm not sure. Do you still see a future with the WRX? I think for the company, yes. Myself, we'll have to wait and see the new gen version, because I always had kind of thought in the back of my head that, once I do have kids and need a four-door car, I'll buy a WRX. But honestly, I mean, the WRX is really, it's a decent car, but it's been underwhelming me. I think, the more cars that I drive, at this point I've reviewed, well over 200 cars. It's just like, there's a lot of really fun stuff out there, and the WRX isn't quite as amazing as it once was. There's been a lot of new competition, in the past 5 or 10 years here that have made the WRX seem a little less impressive. And it's, even the 2018 I just reviewed, it felt good, but I mean, it still had too much body roll. The WRX is a car, and I mean, a lot of owners will even agree, a WRX is no good unless you do a tune and some kind of suspension work to it. From the factory, they're still like not that great. And obviously people's opinions vary and stuff. But personally, I don't want to buy a car that I immediately have to modify. I want a car that I already enjoy right off the showroom floor, and I can just drive it and enjoy it and not have to fix it as soon as I buy it. So the chances of me getting a new WRX, unless they really knock my socks off with the next gen version in 2020, I'll most likely be going elsewhere for my four-door car. And I mean, the Giulia leases are really attractive right now. So that's something that, I would consider, they're like $350 a month and, 280 horsepower. So it's even technically about the same speed or slightly even faster than a WRX. You can get it with the all-wheel drive, the gorgeous looks, and all that kind of stuff. So I'd probably be more tempted to do something like that over a WRX. Another question here, best BMW model in your opinion? M2 for sure. Just definitely the best driving thing they make currently. All right, got a ton more questions here, so let me see. I'm gonna try and do a few more from the top here, and then I'm just gonna skip down to the bottom. Classic G Body Garage is here. Thanks for joining us, man. Yeah, he's another one that was in the pull apart challenge, of course. And again, if everyone hasn't seen it yet, definitely go check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's very funny. It gets funnier and funnier and more suspenseful as it goes on. So definitely check out the first episode there. The link is in the description. Someone else is saying the M5 V10 is the best BMW ever. That's probably one of the top ones of all time, but the current one they currently make, I think the M2 is the best. Do you think Dodge will Hellcat everything? I hope so. That would be nice. It seems like they're doing it with most of the stuff already anyway. How many speeding tickets have you got while out test driving a car? Well, I have never gotten any speeding tickets, knock on wood. Hopefully I never have an issue with that. I always am very safe when I do my first couple of pulls. I do it in a place where it's, not too busy, and, all that kind of stuff, higher speed limits, so that if, I did happen to pass a cop by horrible coincidence, I wouldn't be going that far over the speed limit, but yeah, I've never had any issues. There's only one time where I was in a park filming and a cop came up to me and notified me that I can only have GoPros on the passenger side of the car in Pennsylvania, which I don't know how he even knew that, because he was just some random old sheriff guy, and it was really confusing. And I was like, okay, thanks for the information. And it was like he just wanted to scold me for something but didn't have anything to say, so he just said that, and that was it. That's the only thing I've ever had as far as cops and stuff. I got one speeding ticket way back whenever I was in college for doing 81 and a 65, and it was just a typical speed trap zone, and that was back when I had my Legacy GT and was flying around everywhere. But I've kind of slowed down a little bit since in my own personal driving. Which one is the better deal for the price? Focus ST or Fiesta ST? Depends on what kind of deal you get on those cars, especially Focuses. It seems like you can get a really sweet deal on a Focus ST these days. The Fiesta, honestly, so if we're just comparing MSRP to MSRP, I would pick the Fiesta, because unless you need the larger size, the Fiesta feels, it's obviously smaller. It feels lighter and more agile and just a little more fun and athletic to me, a little more tossable than the Focus. The Focus isn't, a heavy slouch by any means. It's still a really agile and fun car, but for me, the Fiesta is the one that kind of won me over a little bit more. Are you a turbo supercharger or NA kind of guy? Depends on the vehicle. I can appreciate all three. What is the most fun car I've ever driven? That's always a hard one. It's like a toss-up between the GT350, the Jag F-Type R, and probably the McLaren 570S Spider that I just reviewed. That's a new top one in my mind. This is probably the top three. There's been a ton of stuff. I mean, the Yenko Camaro with its 800 horsepower, that was pretty wild. So lots of stuff. They're all just fun in different ways too. So it's hard to say just one, but like kind of a top, 4 or 5. I think those would be my picks. All right. Have you gotten any feelers about testing a Jeep JL before the release date? No one has offered one. Fiat Chrysler hasn't reached out to me or anything. So, I'll probably review one eventually. I'm sure they'll probably send one as a press vehicle once those are making the rounds next year. But I'm personally not a huge Wrangler fan, so it's not a car I'm actively seeking out to review, especially since this channel is mostly about performance stuff, and it seems like SUV reviews don't really do quite as well. So I try and avoid SUVs a lot of the times, but since the Wrangler is such an iconic one, I'll certainly probably take it for a spin if I'm given the opportunity. Do you think Honda made a mistake discontinuing the V6 and the coupe with the Accord? I think they made a mistake with discontinuing the coupe, but not the V6. I think the V6 was awesome. It sounded great, but just that 2.0 T motor is really punchy. It doesn't seem any slower than the V6. And yeah, you're losing the sound a little bit there, but you're gaining a lot of efficiency. And these days, that's what they have to do. They have to keep their corporate EPA, estimates up in order to not get fined by the government and stuff like that. So it's just, something they have to do. So it's a shame, I guess, in a way, but, I think this new 2.0 motor is pretty sweet as well. Someone asked, are you a trained road racing driver, Matt? So when you track cars, you actually know what you're doing because you were trained at a Skip Barber school. I wasn't at Skip Barber, but I did do the Cadillac performance driving school, which was 2 days, and it was really an intense 2 days, but it taught us a lot. I did a video on that. You can check out Cadillac V performance school that I did, and search for that and hear all my thoughts on it. But it was an absolute blast. I think that really helped, and that was just back in May, because before then I had never really had any track training. I did a little Dodge Drive event a couple of years ago where I got some instruction on track and Hellcats, and that was interesting. But I didn't get to really learn a whole lot in that because it was like raining and cold that day. And being in a rainy, cold track in a Hellcat, you're just trying to survive. It's not a matter of even trying to learn much. So this Cadillac experience is really cool. And so I was taught there, and then I'm kind of picking up little things as I go, as I've been doing a couple more track events here this year. Just with these press drives and things that I've been doing. But so I have some training, with the 2-day program there. I did the half-day McLaren training program as well, for the Project Cars 2 video that I did. But that's about it. I haven't been formally trained. I don't have a racing license or anything. And this channel has always been focused on what a car is like to drive and review on the streets, because there's plenty of people that do track drives way better than I will ever be able to do. Randy Post and Motor Trend and all the other big magazines, I think, do the best as far as lap times and consistently evaluating vehicles, all that kind of stuff. So I think those are the best places to go if you're curious about track stuff. My stuff's about what is it like to drive every day, what is it like on a commute kind of situation and things like that. And that's kind of the strength of my channel, I think. You think the inline 6 and the BMW Z4/Super will be a new 2JZ engine? I don't think so. I think they're going to use the BMW inline 6 if they do an inline 6. Otherwise, it's going to be the twin turbo V6 out of the Lexus that we just saw in the LS500. I did a quick drive video on this past week. So that would be it. It's going to be one of those two motors, I think. And I'm leaning towards the BMW one because that would actually technically be the more proper motor to put into a Supra is an inline 6. So yeah, even if it does come from BMW, I think it'd still be pretty cool. Jake says he owns a WRX but didn't notice the body roll that I was mentioning earlier. Yeah, so I guess it just depends on what kind of roads you're pushing it on. I mean, I'd certainly notice a lot more body roll, but if you say you're kind of new to sports cars, if you drive a few more cars with a stiffer suspension, you might kind of understand what I'm talking about. But even, it doesn't have to be sports cars. Like, just take a Volkswagen GTI for a spin. The difference in handling between a GTI and a WRX is like night and day to me. I mean, a GTI, it's like it's on rails, and that's like a cliche that people say all the time, but like it actually is so flat, and you don't feel any of this swaying back and forth that I kind of felt in the WRX. and stuff like that is, I think, the stuff that really makes a big difference. And so, yeah, hopefully now I didn't drive WRX with the performance package. That might make it a little bit better, but I think that's mostly just brakes and stuff. So not sure if that would improve it any, but will we ever see another sporty two-door Volkswagen in the United States? Scirocco ? I don't know. I think Volkswagen's on this electrification kick, and so if we get any kind of electric, or if we get any kind of sporty two-door, it'd be some kind of electric thing. But I don't think a Scirocco or something's coming back to the States, because the Scirocco is just discontinued, like 2.0 said here. The Scirocco is discontinued in Europe. I talked about that in last week's weekly update. So yeah, I'm not sure if they're going to bring it back or, have anything. But I mean, the fact that we can't even get, some of the cooler Volkswagen models that are already currently offered in Germany, I don't think we're going to get any kind of sporty two-door, unfortunately. Lazy says he's done a ton more to the Legacy. You should do an update quick drive. Yeah, so thanks for offering that. Again, because of the way my schedule is, I'm not going to be scheduling any new drives or reviews until the spring, but maybe in the spring, definitely send me a message and maybe we can set something up, because I'm always down to drive a Legacy, because it reminds me of my old Spec B that I do miss from time to time. And so yeah, that'd be cool to do. So yeah, definitely let me know. All right, other questions here. I appreciate everyone hanging out and joining us. Someone said they want to know what I look like with a beard. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. The wife's not a big fan of scratchy beards either, so probably not going to happen. It always, like, I think back in college and stuff, I did like the No Shave November and those types of things, but it just, I don't know, it always just got itchy to me and stuff. So yeah, I mean, every once in a while I'll let my stubble grow out a couple of days, but that's about it. All right, someone said we've reached what I consider the last golden age of cars, given sales numbers, crushing consumer debt, impending recession. It soon might be the best time in history to get your next dream car. Yeah, it sounds depressing, but it's almost like we are kind of living in a little bubble here. I think they've been saying how there's this issue with these subprime auto loans that's looking a lot like the subprime mortgage crisis back in 2007, 2008. Where they're just approving everyone for a car loan and everyone's spending, way more money on a car than they can actually afford and stuff like that. Hopefully it doesn't, get as bad as it did in 2008. But that combined with the fact that, everyone's trying to phase out, gasoline engines and all that kind of stuff. It's honestly, this is why, like, everyone's like, I've been saying to everyone, get a manual transmission while you can. And that's why, like, me personally, I'm getting my big naturally aspirated V8, with my Mustang GT and enjoying it as long as I possibly can. Because even the Mustang's probably going to go with a turbo V8 for the next generation version. That's just my speculation. I haven't heard too much about it yet, but it wouldn't be a surprise. We already know there's a hybrid Mustang that's going to be arriving for 2021 as well. So this is just the way things are going. So enjoy your gas guzzling stuff with a manual while you can, if that's something you're into. If not, then that's fine. It's also fun to be on the cutting edge of technology and, trying out the Teslas and the Bolts and all that kind of stuff and seeing what the future holds. But I prefer to live in the present and slightly live in the past sometimes and enjoy the good old fashioned stuff. F1 in Austin this weekend. Do you envision yourself ever covering racing events like that, or just showing up and making a video of the 3 North American F1 events? So I did the F1 event in Montreal. I think that was last year. That was an event that Shell sent me on, and they like sending me to motorsports things. So that's why I did that last year. I was at a NASCAR race they sent me to. And so, and I did the Corvette museum. They had like a autocross combined with kind of a road course kind of thing. I did that too. But as far as doing other F1 events, I mean, I would love to go to them. I'm personally, though, I don't follow F1. I'm not a huge, fan of it. So, I mean, it's sweet. It's awesome. But I like things that are like more relatable and realistic, and watching F1 cars fly around the track, it's sweet and exciting, but to me, it's just something that I don't care to invest the time in keeping up with. I'm not real big into sports in general. I don't really follow, football or anything like that either. It's just, I guess I have other interests, but it's very sweet. I have a lot of friends that are into F1 and stuff, and I'd certainly like to go to events if, given the opportunity. Nice guy asks, best car under 35 grand. And that completely depends on what you want in a car and what you think is best. So I get this question a lot when people send me messages, where they say, what car should I buy? Best thing for X amount of dollars. And it's like, well, do you need to carry more than one person around with you? Do you need 4 doors? Do you live in a snowy place? Do you need all-wheel drive? Do you like handling better than power? Do you want a little bit of both? Do you not care about one or the other? That will decide what is the best car for you. And that's why I can't make a blanket statement or do a video of top 5 best cars, because that might be my top 5 best cars, but that might not be your top 5 best cars. So me just giving, what my favorites are doesn't really help you guys out. And this channel is always about helping you guys and giving consumer advice for you guys, and not just me showing off in cool cars or anything. Like I'm trying to give, consumer advice with these reviews. And so that's why I always say the pros and cons of a car and say, this car is really fun if you enjoy this. This car might not be fun if you don't like this, that, or the other, and kind of helping you guys to narrow it down for yourself. So nice guy, it would depend on, what you are looking for in a car. And if you would like to get more in depth with trying to figure that out, you can send me a message on Facebook. That's where I always respond to people. It usually takes me a few days, but I do always respond and help you out to figure out something that you would enjoy, because it's always fun talking with you guys on Facebook or email or whatever, and helping you guys figure out a car. And then you'd be like, yeah, I actually bought the car, and you send me a picture of it. And it's awesome, because the more of us that find ourselves in cars that we love driving, I think that really improves someone's life. And it's something that can really be a good stress reliever. It's additional fun and entertainment. It's a good hobby. There's lots of good things that finding a car you love. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this channel, is helping you guys find a car that you absolutely love. Because I think if we all were driving a car we enjoyed, I think the world would be a slightly better place and a little less stressful of a population, I guess. Other questions here. Let me see. We got a bunch here, so I'm going to try and we got a ton more questions. So I might just skip to the bottom here so that you guys aren't waiting forever and ever to get your questions answered. Someone said, are you going to the YouTube call out? I'm not. I will be in SEMA in Vegas. During that, SEMA I think starts on the 31st, and I'm going to be going to LA first and then to SEMA, but I will be out of town when the call out is going on, so I'm not going to be going to that. Do you like the Nissan GTR? I love them. If you watched my Nismo review this past week, you will know full well I very much enjoy the GTR. That car made me giggle a lot. Are the CarMax cars from a rental car lot? I think CarMax operates the same as any other used car dealership, where they get cars from a variety of sources, whether it's trade-ins. They buy cars that other dealerships get on trade-ins that they can't keep. For example, I used to work at a BMW, Audi, and Porsche dealer, and if they got anything traded in that wasn't a BMW, Audi, or Porsche, or something similar that people could cross-shop with, they just shipped it off to a wholesaler. And then those wholesalers are people like CarMax and stuff who end up selling it there. So there's that kind of stuff. A lot of it, they might get some rental car stuff as well. It's a lot of it, they just buy cars at auction too. So rental car companies dump their cars off at auction. A lot of these actual automotive companies like Ford and stuff, they will dump off their previous lease vehicles. After they're off their lease term, they dump those off at auction. So it could be off lease cars. There's a bunch of different things. I think CarMax doesn't work any differently than the others. Other questions here. Regal GS automatic or manual? Well, I've only driven the automatic of the new one, or the old one. I haven't driven the new Regal. It just came out. So I'm not sure about the manual. The automatic's okay. It's just the GM automatic, which is a little bit on the slow side. But yeah, it just, again, that kind of depends on your situation. If you sit in lots of traffic, then obviously the automatic probably makes more sense. If you don't sit in a lot of traffic, I would go for the manual, just because it's not going to be available much longer. Another person asking, will I be getting the new Mustang GT from 2018? I'm going to be getting the Bullitt as long as I possibly can. So Yad asks, how's your wife's C-Class doing? It's doing really well. Yeah, she still enjoys it. Although I have this Mercedes E43 AMG this week that if you guys follow me on Instagram and all that kind of stuff, you've seen the pictures of that. And yeah, my wife is really jealous of that E43. She's like, man, I want this, like, I want these massage seats. I want all these ambient lights and, the cool digital gauges and all that kind of stuff. But she's happy with her C-Class still. It's doing well. And, there's always something better you can upgrade to. So she's content. All right. Which compact luxury mid-trim 340i, S4, XES, etc. sports sedan do you think is leading the segment right now? I haven't driven all of them, and even like the S4, I just did a quick drive in, which isn't a really fair assessment because I only had 10 minutes behind the wheel, and that's about it. But so I really like the XE. It's so as far as leading the segment, that kind of can be broken down into multiple different areas. So, there's like the tech of the vehicle, and then there's the driving dynamics, and then there's the value of them. And so there's different cars for each of those different strengths. Like I think the XES is one of the best driving ones, but the tech in that isn't quite as good. I actually think out of those compact luxury trims, the ATS is one of the ones that's really high up there on my list as well. Not quite as nice in the interior. So again, if you want something more luxurious, you can make compromises with the others. But if you want the best driving one, I think the ATS is one of the best ones out there. It just feels lighter and sharper than a lot of the others. So that's probably one of my top picks for that. The S4s are fun, but they're just a lot softer now than they used to be. 340i, I don't like personally. I mean, why it was a 335. I think I reviewed a couple of years ago, and that car really underwhelmed me. I think kind of BMW's lost their way in a lot of ways. So they do make some very impressive M cars still, but the standard stuff, I'm kind of indifferent to a lot of them. But yeah, so, and I think obviously the Giulia that I just reviewed, they did a little quick drive video of, that really impressed me in the 15 minutes I drove that. The Giulia is one that I would definitely consider one of the top driving vehicles in the segment as well. Thoughts on the Mazda 3 2.5? I've never driven one, but I actually didn't announce this yet, but Mazda has approved me for press cars finally. I know a lot of you have been requesting a Mazda 3 review and a Mazda 6 for years now, honestly, and so I will be getting a Mazda 3 here at the end of next month, and it's going to be a 2018 Grand Touring one with the bigger motor, and I'm excited to finally review Mazda 3 and see what they're like. So I will let you know then, so stay tuned for that. So, all right, other questions here. Jeff says, what's up, Matt? Long time no talk. I'm still loving my 2015 Chevy SS. It looks like Dodge is the only company still doing an NA V8 sedan. Any thoughts? I lost my place. Any thoughts on the death of the NA V8 sedan? It's, again, another one of those things that's a sign of the times, and it's just the way things are going. It sucks, but what can you do? You just got to adapt and make the best of what's available and enjoy the stuff that we currently have, and buy up the Chevy SSs while we still can. It's a shame that car just didn't sell. No one was into it, sadly, which is I drove two. I did two different reviews, one with the manual, one with the automatic. Fantastic cars, so underrated, and I think when people look back on them, they're going to realize just how amazing they were, because it's an awesome car. Brian asks, do you enjoy Top Gear? If so, what is your favorite challenge or trip they have done? Well, the new Top Gear, it was pretty cool. So, I mean, if you're talking about the old one with Clarkson and stuff, I loved all of them. I think my favorite one was whenever they looked for the best driving road in the world. And that was when they were in the Gallardo Superleggera that Jeremy was in. Richard was in the Porsche GT3 RS, and then James May was in the Aston Martin V8 Vantage, and it was like a racing spec one kind of, and he was just like miserable the entire time. That's probably my favorite Top Gear episode. But a lot of their stuff, the Polar Challenge was really awesome. They went to the North Pole, and there's so many good stuff from the old Top Gear. And the new Top Gear, it's really grown on me a lot. I think, in the most recent episodes, it's really come into its own a little bit more. And especially with Chris Harris, I think he's the one that makes the show for me, especially. And yeah, so I really enjoy it. But I think the Grand Tour is actually my favorite show. I laugh so hard for every episode of the Grand Tour. It's absolutely the best. Yeah, other questions here. What do you think of the 2014 CLA 45 AMG? I did a review of one. You can check it out on the channel. Just search for it, and all my thoughts are right there. All right, thanks for answering your question regarding the collabs. Send me a private DM on either Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so you can arrange something that will work for us both in the future. Sounds good. I will try and write that down here so I don't forget it, because I get so swamped with things. Like I said, it would take me a while before I remember, but let me write it down real quick. Alrighty. Cool. Sounds good. Smile per mile. If you were to buy a 991.2 GT3, would it be a manual PDK or touring package model? I would definitely do the touring package model with the manual. I love the, look without the wing, a little bit of a more comfortable one. I love that thing. I hope I get to drive one someday because those are really sweet. Would you recommend buying smaller size rims to mount winter tires on? It's generally better, yes, if you have smaller wheels. It's mostly the skinnier wheels is the main thing, because the skinnier they are in the winter, the better off you are with winter traction. So yeah, I mean, like for example, like actually, so since this other new Mustang that I have here now, the 2016 one with the blacked out package, that has the larger wheels than my old GT had, and so this one runs 255 wide tires, and the old GT had 235s. I still have 235 wide snow tires left over from the other GT, and I actually bought those back when I had the EcoBoost. I'm gonna buy smaller wheels because instead of the 19s, I'm gonna take those off, put the 18s on with those snow tires and run those in the winter here this winter. And so yeah, I definitely recommend it if you can, but that's not always feasible or makes sense. But yeah, do you ever play Forza Horizon 3? I do not have a game console currently. I'm probably going to buy an Xbox One at some point here just because I'm really excited about LA Noire, the remaster of that, if anyone has ever played that before. That's actually one of my all-time favorite games. It's not a car game, but it's I have a huge love for history and 1940s to 1960s history in particular, and that game was really cool. It's like a murder mystery kind of just private investigator kind of deal. I'm excited for that, so I'm probably gonna buy an Xbox One just for that over the winter and play that. But I'll probably pick up Forza Horizon 3, and I'm actually really curious about the new Need for Speed game. It looks kind of cool to me because I was always a big fan of Need for Speed games back in the day, so I might try that out as well, and maybe I'll do some live streaming with gaming as well at some point if I do get into that. But it's just something that I usually don't have a lot of time to play video games, and so that's something I just haven't had much time to get into here ever since starting the YouTube channel. Any more news on the Bullitt Stang? Well, a new little development actually came out later yesterday that I wasn't able to cover in the weekly update, is that Ford has announced they are not doing a press conference at the LA Auto Show. And the LA Auto Show is where I was assuming they would be showing the Bullitt. But a couple of people have mentioned that it could be potentially the San Francisco Auto Show, since that's where they kind of did the first little rollout of the Bullitt back in 2007 and for the 2008 models. And so it could be the San Francisco Motor Show, which is like a week before LA, or it could be that they're just not doing a press conference for the Bullitt, because that would be overkill if it's just that's the only new thing they have to debut. And it's just going to be a additional package on a standard GT, then it wouldn't really warrant a whole press conference. So maybe they'll just kind of have it on the stand and say here it is, and do a reveal online like a lot of car companies are doing these days instead of a car show thing. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm still holding out hope. I'm like 99.9% sure it's coming. I just don't know when. So I'm just eagerly anticipating any kind of official announcement. All right, other questions here. Hey Matt, is there any way you could try and review some great first affordable cars? For example, your Prelude video was excellent. So I would like to do more affordable cars. So it's really, with YouTube, I've noticed for my channel at least that the stuff that people are most interested in is the newest stuff that's out. So I try and stick to new model stuff now just for that reason. I mean, some of the really iconic stuff I tried to do already, like the Preludes, the RSX, the older Civic SIs, those kind of cars, which are great affordable cars. You can pick up a Civic SI now for $5,000 to $8,000. And that's one of the best first cars I think I could recommend to anybody. And so I have a good amount of those covered already. I don't think there's really too many that I haven't covered yet. Like I've already done a 240SX, all that kind of stuff. So if there's any in particular that you would like to see, I can try and hunt those down. But for the most part, I'm going to try and focus more on newer cars because that seems, like I said, to be what everyone's mostly interested in. But I am going to be doing more affordable new cars soon. I actually am also going to be getting press cars from Kia soon, and their new little Forte 5 with the manual. It's got 200 horsepower. It's another fun little thing you can pick up pretty cheap, and it's a good value and a good first car. So that'll be one I'll be posting a review of, and a couple other cars that are a little more accessible. I know a lot of the reviews you've seen in the past month or two here have been really high-end, expensive stuff. And there will be more of that to come. I got a Rolls-Royce review coming and a bunch of other stuff. But I will be getting back to affordable stuff here. Over the winter, I'll be mixing some of that stuff in as well. So it's not just going to all be expensive cars. I want to keep the channel relatable and review stuff that, just about anyone can afford. All right. Other questions here. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom again. Thoughts on the WRX STI Type RA? It's cool. I don't know. At this point, I'm just kind of, again, they keep improving the handling on all these Subarus. Same thing with the BRZ TS that we're getting, that it's just like these cars already handle really well. And if people want it to handle better, they go to the aftermarket. What everyone wants is, a new engine, more actual reliable power, all that kind of stuff. So the Type RA, I'm just kind of meh about. I mean, it'll be cool for sure, but I'm not super excited about it personally. Other questions here. Why does Honda style their pickup truck the way they do? It's all personal taste. I didn't think the Ridgeline looked bad that I reviewed. I think it actually looks good. But yeah, I mean, I think if you want a typical truck style, I think, stuff like the new Colorado, new Tacoma, those all look pretty cool. Speaking of affordable stuff, do you prefer the Valkyrie or the Project One? Good follow-up. Hard to say. I've only seen pictures of both. I've never seen either one in person, or I don't think anyone's even reviewed either of them. So hard to say which one's going to be better. I think from a look standpoint, I like the Valkyrie a little bit better. But yeah, I think the Project One's going to be the one that might be a little bit more impressive, but we'll have to wait and see, like I said, until someone actually drives them. Are you going to do vlog in the future? No, I am not a vlogger, and I don't plan to become one. I know that's where all the YouTube money is these days, and a lot of other YouTubers are blowing up on it, and it's great for them. But personally, I mean, I've said this in the past before. My life is not interesting enough to vlog, to be perfectly honest. Like, aside from reviewing cars, my life is just the normal. I'm just sitting in front of this computer editing videos. Or I'm just running errands and doing very normal stuff. I'm not, like guys like my buddy, Mike Street Speed 717, like he's an awesome guy. We're friends and stuff. And, I love hanging out with him every time I get a chance to. But, like he actually has like all these car friends, and they all, are meeting up and they're working on their cars every single day. And there's always something car related going on every day. Whereas with me, the only like car stuff in my life is like going to Cars and Coffee meets and then, just reviewing cars and then driving my own personal cars. I don't wrench on my cars. I don't like, go and hang out in people's garages all day. Like that's just not the way my life is. So it's not something I think I don't think you guys want to watch me go to McDonald's or watch me make dinner and go grocery shopping. It's just totally pointless to vlog about. So I just don't think there's any opportunity for me to vlog. And again, this channel, I'm trying to keep this channel a little bit more like formal and a little more professional. I want to, have it be something that people are like, okay, like this guy is serious about car reviews, not like, oh, this guy's just like throwing a camera up on his windshield and talking about cars. I'm trying to kind of be a little bit more. I think that's kind of what we were doing with Ava is, with the Automotive Video Awards that we did where, we decided on the best car of the year and all that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is, it was everyone was asking, why wasn't this YouTuber or that YouTuber invited? And it's like, all of us in that group were trying to kind of, be like, underline the fact that we are doing new cars. We're trying to give consumer advice, not vehicle showcases or showing off modified projects or builds. These are new cars from manufacturers. Here's what they're like to drive, and if you will enjoy owning one. And just trying to do that stuff. And, that's kind of what the whole Automotive Video Awards is, to bring us all together and help us to all have an awesome opportunity to review all these really sweet cars that we've reviewed. So, so yeah, that's my thoughts on that. All right, everyone loves when I turn down onto the back road or the straight road. Yeah, that's the signature thing. And by the way, if you do like that tagline, shameless plug here. I still have the shirts available. The link is in the description below. If you do want one of those "Let's Turn Down Onto This Back Road" shirt, Yeah, you guys seem to enjoy those so far. Actually, so Saab Kyle texted me the other day and sent me a picture of someone who was on the tail of the dragon and was wearing that shirt. And I was like, that is the perfect place to wear a Let's Turn Down Onto This Back Road shirt, is at the tail of the dragon. That was really cool to see someone out and about wearing the shirt. And I think he's actually on here. I don't remember his username offhand, but he's a regular commenter, and I appreciate him supporting the channel there. Someone else is asking, Matt, do you think self-driving cars in the future will kill the automotive review industry? So this is something I've thought about a lot, you know, because obviously that would affect me, because this is my career. This is my full-time thing. It has been for about 2 years now, and I want it to continue to be my full-time thing. And I think in the future, I kind of see myself going in 2 separate directions and kind of dabbling in 2 different things. And the first is reviewing how autonomous cars actually drive, because it's almost like, you know, anything with cars currently. How does this car take a corner? What are the things they can improve in this car? And that's still going to be the case with all these autonomous cars. It's just I'm not the one doing the controlling, but I can still be like, all right, so let's turn down onto this back road and see how this thing does, and then be like, go for it, car. And it just takes off. And I'm like, okay, well, I can still judge this, that, and the other. And then I can be like, okay, now go down this back road, and I'll sit there and, you know, go on this back road with it. And I'll be like, okay, well, suspension's too soft. It doesn't handle very well. Or this computer doesn't know how to take this corner very well. This is terrifying. And, you know, it could be something like that that I could see myself doing in that regard. I also can see myself continuing to do older cars, so focusing more on classic car reviews, you know, in 20 years or whatever, and being like, oh, look how much fun it was back when we had these Hellcats back in the day, and do a video 20 years from now about how awesome the Hellcat was back when it was in its heyday, and, you know, doing kind of look back stuff and also doing those kind of things. And even if it got to the point where it got so extreme, which I don't think this will be the case for another, you know, 30 or 40 years, but if it gets to the point where cars are actually illegal on the roads, and, you know, you're not even able to drive a car on the streets, then it'll be, okay, I'm going to go rent out a track and drive my old Mustang GT that I've had for 30 years and see how it handles still, and just kind of, you know, do different things like that, and still have people that offer their cars, and they, even if they have to trailer them to the racetrack in their autonomous blob, you know, we can drive it on the track and still do fun videos there. So I think I see it going in those 2 different directions. So yeah, that's kind of how I see it going. So I think there'll always be room to do reviews on this kind of stuff. I think the car reviews might start just getting a little more into like tech reviews, like you see on, you know, cell phone reviews and things like that, but it'll still, I think you can always review something. And so I think that's what I can do. But Zia says, can I get a shout out from DC? How's it going, man? Thanks for joining us here for the live stream. Would you do a flashback video of Super Doverks fan? I don't know what you mean by flashback video. I think flashback is if you miss me saying Super Doverks fan really fast, you can go back and watch the old videos. There's over 1,000 videos there of me saying that now. So plenty of opportunities to go back and reminisce for those that get melancholy. Other questions here. Are you going to review a Tesla soon? They are very hard to get your hands on. No owner has ever offered me one to review, and Tesla like basically doesn't give anyone press cards. Now, if you guys have seen in the news, but Tesla and Consumer Reports have been in each other's throats this past week, because Consumer Reports was like dissing Tesla, and I can see both sides to the whole situation. So I'm not really going to weigh in on, you know, who's right and who's wrong with that whole thing, but like Tesla's real protective about like who they let drive their cars and making sure that it kind of, you know, promotes the message they want it to promote. You know, you very rarely see a bad Tesla review. And if someone is complaining about a Tesla, you can guarantee there's going to be thousands upon thousands of people harassing the person and telling them they're wrong and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, and I think the best way to judge for yourself is Tesla's very good with doing test drives. That's one thing I will say. There's lots of Tesla stores, and you can even just walk right up, and they are very eager to give you a test drive in one. So if you're ever curious about what a Tesla's like, instead of waiting for my review, which may never come or it might take a long time, just go hop in one, take one for a test drive, and, you know, see for yourself, you know, what it's like. I have driven one very briefly after a Cars and Coffee meet for like 10 minutes, and it was very, very impressive. This was like a P80D, I think. This was back when that was the top of the line one. And it's a very sweet vehicle, and very crazy and mind-bending in a lot of ways. And it's a very intriguing idea, and I hope they continue to do well. But yeah. Other questions here. Do you use After Effects for your intro? I do. That's what I used. I did for my intro there, and that's what I do also for my little graphical overlays. You know, with my little Maran motoring that slides out with the car name in the beginning of the reviews and the pros and cons list for the interior and driving. That's all done with After Effects. Yeah. Matt, do you have a car that you hate? Really, I don't think there's very few terrible cars these days. I mean, compared to even 10 years ago, it's so hard. I mean, 10 years ago it was easy to find really bad cars. These days it's kind of hard. I think one car from many years ago that I drove was the Smart car, and that was truly horrible to me. The transmission was horrible. Obviously, it wasn't very sporty. Excuse me, it was slow, all that kind of stuff. So that was one that was underwhelming, but I don't think I can even think of something off the top of my head. I can think about it a little bit more and get back to you, but don't think I have one that I really despised. All right. Other questions here. Can you do a Jeep Compass review? Tez, you've been asking on every single video about a Jeep Compass review. So I will be probably getting one from Fiat Chrysler at some point. They like sending me crossovers. Because that's what sells currently. But as I mentioned earlier, I try and steer away from SUV reviews because no one watches them. I think my Fiat 500 review is like the lowest viewed video or review at least that I've posted in a while. And I'll actually have our Nissan Rogue Sport review going live either tomorrow or Monday. And it's just, I think this channel, everyone that's subscribed here, I think for the most part is into performance stuff. There's other channels where crossovers do very well, and that's something that works great for them. But for me, I do them whenever I'm sent them as, press vehicles, but I don't try and find, SUVs to review because, like I said, just people don't seem that interested in them on my channel. But I'm sure I will probably drive a Jeep Compass at some point, but it's not going to be anytime super soon. Oliver asked if I watch Top Gear. I mentioned that earlier. I do, and I do enjoy it. Will we get another Miss Maran review soon? She was hilarious during the first one. Well, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, so I'm hoping we can do something again. It's just doing something that kind of makes sense. With her car, it certainly made sense. We've dabbled in the idea of like having her do or us doing a thing where we both give our thoughts on a car and kind of have a discussion about a car, and kind of showing things from a girl's perspective, and that could be interesting as well. So if that's something that a lot of people want to see, then we can work something like that out. I mean, my wife is really busy with her own job. She's a nanny and stuff. So whereas with me, this is my full-time thing. So my days are dedicated to filming reviews, and I have free time to do that. For her, it's harder for her to get some free time to do that kind of stuff. But I'm definitely open to doing additional stuff with her in the future for sure. Which GTR do you like more, 33, 34, 35? Well, I've never driven a 34, so I can't weigh in on those. But based off the Fast and Furious movies, I think the 34 is my favorite in a lot of different ways. But, I mean, I'm sure the 35 is way faster and probably the most impressive. Never driven a 33 either. I did a review of an R32, and that was really fun. But I think, the R35 is probably my favorite that I've driven so far. When am I coming to Toronto? I don't know. It's probably going to be a while. I've been wanting to come to Toronto for a long time, but so the way my reviews work, press car reviews, and all that kind of stuff are the things that take priority because those are the newest, hottest cars, and so I try to do those first. And then I do whatever cars I think will interest you guys the most that are local to me. So stuff that was within the Pittsburgh area that's easy for me to film, easy for me to get to, and it's not as much of a chore to go out and meet people. And then once all those are done, and I'm I am looking for other stuff. If I ever get to that point, like I said, I've had so many opportunities that it's just like I have such a backlog of people that have been waiting years for me to review their car, and I feel bad, but it's just like it doesn't make sense for me to drive 5 or 6 hours to go review someone's car if I have 15 different opportunities right here that might actually get more views and be something you guys would actually want to see more. So I try to hone in on the things that I think are going to make the most sense, from a time value standpoint. And so I've had some pretty sweet offers for cars in Toronto, but that's again a 6-hour drive for me. And like I said, there's a lot of other opportunities I'm just trying to keep up with around this area. So maybe one day I still would love to get there for sure. You're going to get your hands on a 2018 GTI? Alexander asks. I would like to. That's actually a really weird thing with the 2018 GTIs. Volkswagen has strangely been delaying the launch of the GTI. They've been in the port in Baltimore, the 2018s, like just sitting there, like ready to go, but they haven't been shipped to dealers. And dealers have no clue when they're getting 2018 GTIs. I've reached out to my Volkswagen press person to say, hey, I want to review a GTI. Please send one as a press car. And they said, yeah, we'll send you one whenever we get them in. But like, there's no sign of them anywhere. Obviously, they have them in Europe already, and there's reviews there. But for U.S. spec cars, no one has gotten a chance to drive one yet. No dealer has had them. Some people are theorizing it's because there's still a lot of 2017s left over, and so they want to hold back till some of that supply has been bought up before they release the 2018s. I don't know if that's it or if there's some other issue that's holding them up, but I definitely am interested in doing the revised 2018 GTI as soon as they finally decide to release them. All right, another question here. Daryl says, hi, Matt. I saw your post on Stainless Works channel for a GT350. What do you think about combining the Stainless Works long tube headers with Ford's Performance GT350 active catback exhaust system? So with that, you're talking about the stock exhaust for the GT350? Because I don't know of a further active exhaust they have for the GT350 from Ford Performance. Long tube headers sound great. It's just really loud, even with the active portion. You know, if it's just a weekend toy or you don't mind a super loud car for a daily driver, I'm sure it sounds awesome. Personally, I think when you do headers on an S550 Mustang, it just gets way too loud. And so not something I would personally do, but if you want to go for it, go for it. I'm sure it'll sound amazing. All right. Other questions here. Can I review the 2010 to 2015 Chevy Cruze? Again, a car that most people on the channel probably wouldn't be very interested in. I have done the new Cruzes, and I've done the Cobalt SS, which is another very affordable car if you're looking for something fun. The Cruze has never been a sporty vehicle, so that's why personally I'm not interested in it. I think most people on the channel probably aren't. So I don't think I'll probably be trying to review one of those anytime soon, unfortunately. All right. Native 722 asks, is your channel claimed by Garage Monkey? So it is. They're the network that I partner with, and so they're the ones that arrange some of these sponsored videos that I do throughout the year, like the ones I do with Shell, a couple of times a year. They're the ones that are actually sending us next week to SEMA for the Road to SEMA, where we're going to LA. Probably going to do some kind of little meetup possibly and do a road trip from LA to Vegas, and they set all that stuff up, and so they kind of bring us some really cool new opportunities. So they are the network that I'm partnered with. Yeah. Yad asked when I'm going to end the live stream here. I probably, I'm not sure here. So it's going to depend on when my wife gets home. She's currently out with her mom having some fun. So yeah, probably, I don't know, maybe around 3 or so, maybe a little sooner, maybe a little later, but I'll probably still go for a little while here as long as everyone continues to be interested and has questions here. So Benjamin asked, do you let people drive your car while you review theirs? So actually, no one's ever asked, thankfully, because this is really funny and this might sound really hypocritical, but I'm not a huge fan of letting other people drive my car. It makes me nervous. Again, it's just one of those things. I'm one of those people that's like very careful with their stuff. Like I've never dropped my iPhone. Like I'm super particular about stuff. And it's also a little bit of an unknown because when I meet up with someone to review their car, they've already, seen my videos. They already kind of know how I drive. They know, about me, whereas they're a complete stranger to me and I don't know anything about them. So it's kind of an interesting thing. And that's kind of the way it is whenever I meet any fans anywhere, is it's like, they already know what I drive. They already know everything about me. So it's all just, what do you drive? What's going on with you? And, talking about them because, they've already covered everything with me. So that's one of those things, with reviews where usually, most people actually just want to ride along with me. And, you know, that's something that, you know, a lot of them like doing. Others, they just like leaving me be, because I do focus better whenever I'm in the car by myself, and I can focus on getting better shots and stuff if I'm not, you know, distracted with talking to the owner and stuff. But I do enjoy really talking to the owner. So to me, I always leave it up to the owner to either ride along with me or to hang out and, you know, go get a coffee or whatever it is that they want to do. I think if people were driving my car while I was driving theirs, and they, you know, they're like kind of following me or something, then I would have even more of a struggle to kind of focus on reviewing the car, because I'd be constantly looking in my rearview mirror, like hoping that they weren't like wrecking my own car. So, I mean, not that I don't trust people, but again, you know, there's different people have different driving styles, and not everyone is a totally responsible driver. And, you know, so that's why it's like, you know, everyone kind of knows that I'm responsible. You know, I've never crashed a car. I've had people run into me or trees hit me, but I've knock on wood, you know, never actually had an accident, thank God. And so that's something that you know, I think it comforts people, and so they just ride along, and that's about it. But yeah, so other questions. So Matt does not even let his wife drive his car. Sounds like my dad. Yeah, actually, my wife. So I let the wife drive the EcoBoost once. Now she has only driven manual a couple of times. Her dad has driven manual his whole life, and so she's watched him drive manual her entire life. So she knows how to drive a manual as far as the steps involved. It's just the smoothness of it that, you know, she would have to work on. And again, me being very particular, I do not want, you know, her trying to learn and, you know, wearing out the clutch a little bit prematurely on my own car. So yeah, she has never driven any of the GTs, and she doesn't like driving them anyway. She doesn't like cars with long hoods and cars that feel big, and the Mustang certainly feels that way. So she wouldn't get any enjoyment out of driving it anyway. So she just prefers to ride along. Do I know much about Australian cars? Not a lot, you know, I just, from what I hear in the news and things like that, you know, but that's about it. I don't, I mean, I know of them, you know, the Holdens and all that kind of stuff. And there's some awesome cars, the Ford Falcons and whatnot. But a lot of those, I mean, it's a shame with Australia's shrinking auto industry, you know, with them closing up and getting rid of, you know, the Holden factory and all that kind of stuff. It's unfortunate, you know, that Chevy and all those guys are, you know, getting rid of the SS and all that kind of stuff, which is the Commodore, and replacing it with this other, you know, all-wheel drive Commodore, which isn't nearly as fun. But yeah, so other questions here. Do you put snow tires on the Mustang? I do. Yes, I have done that every year now that I've had the Mustang. And I ran snow tires back on the BRZ and even my Legacy GT with all-wheel drive. I highly recommend snow tires for any car that you have, because all-season tires are really not the greatest in snow. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, have this misconception that, oh, I have an all-wheel drive car, so therefore my car is good in snow. And it's like, yes, your car can accelerate in snow with all-wheel drive with, you know, all-season tires. But all-wheel drive does not help you stop. It does not help you steer. And those two things are arguably much more important than starting. And so, yeah, I definitely put snow tires on the Mustang. I have the, what is the name? They're the Goodyear Ultra Grip Ice WRTs are what I run. Not my favorite snow tire, but they were affordable at the time. And in the past on my BRZ, I ran the Dunlop Winter Sport M3s. Those are spectacular. I think they're discontinued now. It's like the 40 they call it or something. And then I ran Blizzaks on my Legacy GT, and those are spectacular as well. But yeah, the Mustang, at least in Pittsburgh winters, gets around fine in the snow. I mean, I don't drive it when it's really heavy snow, but you know, if it's a couple of inches, it goes totally fine. As long as I'm not starting on a steep hill, I'm fine. You know, it has a snow mode there in the Mustangs with the premium package, and so it's yeah, it gets around just fine. Would you recommend a V6 muscle car for my first car or a manual FRS? I currently drive a Nissan Frontier from 2000 and want a fun car for around the city. Okay, so you said around the city. It would help to know where you live exactly, because if you live in a place with a lot of back roads, I would recommend the FRS. If you live in a place with a lot of straight roads, then I would recommend the V6 muscle car. I mean, both would be fine in either circumstances, but the FRS's strength is on a back road, and the muscle cars, their strength is on the long, open, straight roads. So it just depends on, again, do you want handling or do you want straight line speed? And that'll help you decide on which is the best. But both would be good starter cars. So someone's asking, a tree hit my car. Yeah, that was back in June. You can go watch the video on that. You can just search for my name and tree or something, or just search on the channel for tree, and it should come up. And you know, it was not a good time. Thankfully, the Mustang GT's roof is nice and strong because that tree came about an inch from bashing me in the head. So pretty crazy. Why did I change my channel's name? I have a whole video explaining that. If you search name change, it'll come up, and has all my reasons for that. What's your opinion on Indian cars? I have never driven one, never been to India, so I honestly have no idea, sadly. What do you think of the 2015 Scat Pack? Is it worth 33 grand? If you want something that goes fast in a straight line, then yes, it is worth 33 grand. I think it's a lot of fun. But yeah, like I said, it all depends on what you value personally. Do I find the MX-5 RF more fun to drive than the BRZ? That's tough. They're both, I would say, equally fun in slightly different ways. I think the BRZ has the better handling. I think the Miata has the more, I guess the word is like fun handling. And so, I mean, fun in the fact that the Miata doesn't handle as well. It has way more body roll, but they engineered in the body roll deliberately to make you feel like you're going faster than you are. Whereas the BRZ, it's just like, and you're just slicing and dicing, and there's no drama about it whatsoever. Now, I mean, the BRZ is really good about getting sideways if you push it, but it has much higher limits, or at least it feels like it has much higher limits than the Miata. So if you want to push your limits, the BRZ is more fun. If you want to just have fun and not break the speed limit, then the Miata is probably more fun. But they're both really fun for, for that kind of driving. What's a good car to buy for any season and to have fun? Well, I mean, the WRX is still very fun. I was criticizing it a little bit earlier in the live stream, but the WRX is still a very fun car. And I think that's a really good all-around winter vehicle and things like that for those that like those. Otherwise, I mean, there's not a ton of stuff. I mean, I think front-wheel drive cars are pretty good in the snow and stuff too. So something like a GTI is really hard to beat. I mean, GTIs and Focus ST, stuff like that, it's really a lot of car for your money, a lot of fun for the money, and a really good car, for just about any season. And again, with snow tires, front-wheel drive cars should get around just fine. You should rate cars by class with a giggle-o-meter for fun. I could, but see, I always shy away from rating cars. I know some other people do that, but to me, making blanket statements like that, like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't help you guys out. Because just because I think this car is a 90 out of 100 doesn't mean you're going to. It doesn't mean it'll be a 90 out of 100 for your life, your commute, your situation. So me saying this car is this out of this is just totally pointless in my opinion, because it's just, again, I mean, yes, I'm sure you guys are interested in what I think of a car, but it's also, again, about what you are going to like for a car that you're going to drive and enjoy. And so that's why I don't think it would make much sense to do. I mean, because again, with the giggle thing, yes, it can make me giggle, but why is it making me giggle? Is it making me giggle because it can't put power down? It's just doing a crazy burnout like a Hellcat? Which you'll see actually with the wide body Hellcat review that I'll be posting here in a couple of weeks. Same thing. I'm not giggling because it's stupid fast. I mean, it is stupid fast once it puts power down, but I'm giggling because of the noise, because of the wheel spin and the craziness of it. And then there's stuff like the GTR where it's no wheel spin, but I'm giggling because of the G-forces on me. So even the giggle isn't I guess a predictable or consistent basis of judgment because, it's just, again, it comes down to different factors lead into my reactions and stuff like that. So even that, I think, it would be wrong to do a rating based off of that. Someone asked, what made you want to do car reviews? I always loved, I had a Road and Track subscription as a kid, and I would read from cover to cover and memorize every spec for every car, and I was just a walking encyclopedia. And I always was like, man, it would be so awesome to review cars. And so it was always my dream job. But then whenever I was going into college, this was like 2008. Back then, there was the only way you could review cars in 2008 was either on TV or working for a magazine. And working for a magazine back then, especially, they were paid like 30 to 50 grand a year. You had to live in either New York, Detroit, or LA, which I mean, at least New York and LA are very expensive places to live. So 30 to 50 grand, you're like starving, you know, but you're reviewing awesome cars. But it was like, I wanted to do something I loved, but I also didn't want to be struggling financially. And I think that's changed since then. I think now writers probably get paid a little bit better, but it's still not a very lucrative thing. And so at that point in my life, I was like, well, I want to make a comfortable living, so I guess I will just do something else. And so I tried to be an automotive engineer, realized I wasn't smart enough for that, and then decided to go into finance because that was something I was good at. And then, you know, whenever I got out of college, it was basically whenever YouTube started doing monetization and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, wait, like this could actually potentially like be something that pays the bills for me. And then that's when I just started doing it on my own, because it was always something I wanted to do. It was just I never had an opportunity that made sense. And so that was the first time it finally did. So, I mean, YouTube is entirely to thank for the fact that I'm reviewing cars, because otherwise I'd probably be a financial planner somewhere, which would be fine, but wouldn't be, you know, my passion. All right, other questions. So is the first gen IS300 a good car? So it's been I haven't driven a first gen IS300, I don't think. Well, it's been a long time. I drove one briefly back when I worked at a car dealership, and that was it. I do have someone that has offered one. It's a 3-hour drive away for me to review it though. So again, it goes back to what I was mentioning earlier with focusing on the opportunities that are closest to me first and then driving other places for other opportunities. So I would like to do it eventually. I think that would be a cool, you know, first car to cover for you guys. So yeah, hopefully I'll get to drive one eventually here. Dark is asking, can a BRZ have forced induction and be a reliable daily driver? Got to go soon to have dinner with my girl. Well, thanks for joining us for a little time you had here. To answer your question, I think that, so I reviewed the supercharged BRZ, I think it was last year, and the guy that owned that, he said he's driven that thing all across the country. I think he put like 60 or 70,000 miles on it with no issue whatsoever. And as long as you are conservatively tuned, it should be reliable. I think the BRZ motor takes fairly well to boost. And I mean, like the supercharger setup, I think even the Jackson Racing one, it was only a few PSI of boost. I mean, it made it quicker. It made it feel like a 6-cylinder instead of a 4. It wasn't wildly fast. It still could have used more power, but it was fun. It was a lot more fun than a stock one. And I think something like that would totally still be reliable. Although, I mean, you are ditching your warranty by doing that. But if that doesn't bother you, then I think it would totally be something that probably won't destroy your car. Should be a fairly safe bet, but it's always kind of hard to tell with those things. You know, some people have better luck than others with that. Hi, Matt. Any plans on driving an Audi A5 Sportback review or thoughts on it? I plan on buying one this spring. So the A5 is cool. It's a cool idea. I like the looks of them and stuff. I don't know if I'll have an opportunity to review one. Audi doesn't send me press cars, and when I actually just recently talked to Audi, so most of the press cars I get out of the Washington, D.C. area, which is about a 4-hour drive from me here in Pittsburgh. And whenever I mentioned to the Audi rep at this event that I was at last week, if they could send cars to Pittsburgh, she actually laughed whenever I said that. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's not happening. So yeah, other car companies have no problem sending a car 4 hours, but Audi, for some reason, it's like unthinkable. So I don't think I'm going to be reviewing any brand new Audis anytime soon unless owners actually offer one, unfortunately, because I think their stuff is really sweet, and I'm really impressed with all these new Audis. So I would love to, but I just don't know if I'll have the opportunity. Other questions here. What was better handling in acceleration, the 350Z or 370Z? Definitely. So in handling the 350Z, in acceleration, the 370Z, obviously, because it has more power, and the 350 is lighter. And I just love the driving position of the 350Z a lot better than the 370. They're both great, fun cars, but I think I actually prefer the 350 over the 370 myself. Eduardo asks, do you prefer manual or DSG transmission? I prefer manual all day. It's just more fun, more engaging. One thing Matt does not do, long-term feedback on cars he does not own. Why not, Matt? Like keeping EcoBoost turbos best kept frisky all the time to prevent problems. So I've done long-term feedback on the cars that I have owned, like the EcoBoost, and the GT I've kind of covered and stuff, but it's hard to do any kind of long-term thing on cars I don't own because I just don't know. I think the best way for those of you that are curious about what a car is like over a long-term period are just better off going on forums and asking actual owners of cars. And there's also other people that have their own YouTube videos that'll post up, hey, I have a Lexus IS 300 that I drove for 100,000 miles. Here's what I think about it. What it's, done to me over the past 100,000 miles. It's made me not like it or whatever. And I think, looking for that from others is the best way, because I can only cover so much stuff. But someone else asking about Mike's YouTube call out. I mentioned this earlier in the live stream. I will not be going to it because I will be out of town. I'm going to be going to SEMA that weekend and that whole week there. So I will be in SEMA in Vegas while the event's going on that Mike's throwing. So I'm not able to do that, unfortunately. All right, other questions here. If you had to trade your Mustang for a Porsche, which would you get? That's in the same price range. That's tough, because to get a Porsche in the same price range as a Mustang, you're gonna have to go with something older. I think if I had to, I would probably go for the previous gen Boxer with high miles is what I would probably try and get. I've always liked the Boxer. I think they're really cool, and so that would probably be my pick. Other questions. Clutch comparison, STI and Mustang GT. I think the STI is easier to drive. The clutch is a little more predictable. The Mustang GT has one of the trickiest clutches. It's got this weird spring that's supposed to make it lighter, but it just makes it feel totally artificial and unpredictable, where it's like it's got this very uneven catch point in the middle where it's heavier and then lighter all of a sudden. That's probably one of the only things I can really complain about at the Mustang GT is the clutch. It's a little hard to drive smoothly, even after all these years of owning them. It's still a little tricky sometimes to drive smoothly. And so for a first-time driver, I wouldn't recommend the new Mustang as a good car to learn on. It's a little tricky. So yeah, other questions here. Yeah, and Ryan just said that dude in blue just released his GT 100,000 mile video, for example. Exactly. Going back to the last question about the long-term stuff. Like, there you go. If you're curious how a Mustang GT does after 100,000 miles, go check out David's video on that, and he'll give you all the thoughts on it. So that's the great thing about the YouTube community is we can all learn from each other, and so I never claim to be a one-stop shop of all car knowledge. There's lots of other people that are specialists and all that kind of stuff on different things that are have a lot of information to offer. All right, do you ever recognize people who comment on your videos? Always wondered that. I do. So I think it's just a matter of names that I see a lot, and so names that I see very consistently. I do notice, like, the people who comment on the weekly update every Friday. I noticed that, and that's the kind of stuff that I do, it does stand out to me. And whenever I see those names, I know, they've been around for a long time, and it's really cool, for those that do support the channel consistently like that. It's really appreciated. So I do, and I try and, I still try, that's one thing that's nice about, my channel is it hasn't blown up so fast that I'm unable to respond to comments. I'm still able to respond to most comments, that I can, at least on newest uploads. On the old stuff, I mean, I have over 1,500 videos. There's no way I could respond to comments on all 1,500 videos. But on new stuff, if you comment on, like my newest video, chances are I'll be able to see it as long as it's in the first couple of days. And, if you have a question, I can respond there to it. And I'm glad I'm still able to do that and still interact with you guys a lot. Yeah, like Stevie Boy, for example. I of course, remember him and recognize him. And especially people that comment on social media a lot and stuff, because that I get a lot less comments on there, and I remember people a lot there. Another question about vlogging. I mentioned that earlier. I know it's going to be probably hard to sift through the live stream to try and find it. If someone has an idea of how long ago it was I talked about vlogging, I'm losing a track of time here, but no, I don't. I'm not going to be doing any kind of vlogging because my life is not interesting enough to vlog. I don't think it'd be worth people's time to watch. Kia Optima SX Turbo thoughts, someone was asking. Funny you ask that. That's one of the cars that Kia is going to be sending me as a press car here at some point in the next couple of months. So I will be reviewing that. And so, yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to reviewing. Car Fan says, if the Mustang Bullitt wasn't happening, would you consider buying a used F-Type? Love the content. Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it. So would I consider buying a used F-Type? See, the thing is, I still I still need a back seat. So an F-Type would never an F-Type would never be my daily driver. It was always going to be a weekend car, which is why I want to get a convertible one. So that it's just, hey, it's a nice day. It's a Saturday or Sunday. Just drop the top and, go for a fun drive. And so, yeah, I would never replace a Mustang with an F-Type. Like if there wasn't a Bullitt happening, I would just keep the Mustang I currently have and probably keep that, for a long, long time. So as far as other cars though, not to replace the Bullitt, but I am considering, depending on how rare and how limited production and expensive the Bullitt is, whenever that comes out, I might consider making that a 3-season car and then just having a winter beater, which would be a new car for the channel, to add on, to the, fleet of the, my own car and then my wife's car, and that's it. So, so I have a couple ideas for what I would do for a winter beater, but I'm gonna hold off on that until I have actually decided. Because if the Bullitt isn't anything super special, then I might just throw snow tires on that and drive it all winter. So we'll just have to wait and see. Because I've heard some rumors that it's like really gonna be rare and like limited production. And if that's the case, I'd feel bad driving it in the snow and the salt and all that kind of stuff. But if it's just gonna be like any other Mustang and just be an appearance package, then I'll just drive that in the snow. Other questions. Do you reach out to car manufacturers or do they reach out to you? I reach out to them. The only one that ever reached out to me first was General Motors, and they are awesome. They were like, hey, we'd love to actually started out by them saying, hey, we're going to be in town for the Pittsburgh Auto Show. We'd love to grab lunch and get to know you a little bit. So I grabbed lunch with them, and they, really liked me, and so they decided to send me press cars, and they were the first people to send me press cars was General Motors, and I'll never forget that because that was back when obviously the name was Subaru Works Fan. Didn't bother them one bit. They knew that I wasn't biased. They knew that, they liked my content, and no one had given me press cars before. And so for them to be like, yep, we're going to give you all this awesome stuff was really impressive. And it still amazes me to this day because I think that really opened the doors to a lot of other manufacturers to send me press cars as well. But I always have to reach out to them and pester them for press cars because they're very busy people, all their fleet people. And so I have to ask them multiple times usually, can I get this car? Can I get this car? And so it's a lot of work and emails back and forth and stuff trying to, get a lot of the press cars that you guys see. Some of them they just send and I don't ask for them. So a lot of the crossovers and stuff, they just send me and I'm like, okay, whatever. And I just drive it and, do a little bonus review for you guys. But yeah. All right. Other questions here. Someone's asking about, see here. Okay, so nice guy says, okay, Matt, I get $800 a month. I pay nothing. So what a car you think can get? I live in California. I like fast cars. $800 a month could get you a lot. So you like fast cars. I guess that means in a straight line. If that's the case, if you want something fast in a straight line, you got $800 to spend. Go for like a Camaro ZL1 or a Hellcat or something like that. And it's hard to beat 707 horsepower. And that something like that probably wouldn't disappoint you. Other questions here. Am I going to review an Acura MDX? Probably not. Acura doesn't really send me press cars a whole lot. 991.2 911 review coming, perhaps a GT3. If someone offers one, I would love to. Porsche is another company that does not send me press cars. They're really hard to get press cars from just in general. I mean, a lot of people have told me Porsche is just tough to work with sometimes. So unfortunately, I don't see any in the foreseeable future. Maybe one day, if the channel continues to grow and Porsche sees some value in giving me press cars, then I would review one then. Otherwise, it's just a matter of waiting for an owner to offer one. Someone's asking, what is the Volkswagen Jetta 1.4T manual like? I've never driven one, so I'm not sure, unfortunately. I've driven the automatic new Jettas, and they're very nice. My sister actually has just the standard 2.0 one, and she really enjoys her Jetta. Although the head unit did go wonky on it. I think it doesn't do Bluetooth audio streaming anymore. And the dealer can't figure it out. And so everyone's just kind of throwing their hands up in the air, and she just doesn't have Bluetooth audio streaming, which is kind of unfortunate. It's the only downside of her ownership experience with the Jetta. Otherwise, it's been a good car for her. Other questions. IS350 F Sport. I already reviewed a standard 350, and they didn't have an F Sport whenever I asked them for it, so they just sent me the standard 350. So yeah, I don't think I'll be doing an F Sport one. There's not a huge difference between the two. But yeah. Luke asks if I'm affected by the YouTube demonetization. I have not been. So I think they're targeting more controversial stuff and people that swear, I guess, is one thing I've heard too. I've never sworn in any of my videos. I've always been very focused on keeping this channel family friendly because I do know that I have a lot of young fans. I have fans that come up to me at cars and coffee meets that are, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old and stuff. So I don't want to be swearing left and right in front of them and stuff. It's just not something I usually do a lot anyway. So I just keep the channel clean, and that way it's advertiser friendly, it's YouTube friendly, it's family friendly, it's friendly for everybody. So no one's excluded, everyone can enjoy it. So I've not been affected by the demonetization at all. The only thing that did affect me was back whenever there's the whole scandal with all these controversial videos that I think the Wall Street Journal sent something to Coca-Cola, and they're like, look, there's like your advertisements for Coca-Cola are playing before all these horrible videos. And Coke was like, oh no, we can't have that happening. So they pulled all their advertisements, and they're expecting YouTube to like censor stuff more. But it's like YouTube is about, free speech, or at least it used to be. And it's like, you can't predict what people are going to post. And if you're going to allow people to monetize videos, then you have to take the, the good with the bad. And it's hard to filter that stuff out. And so thankfully, all these companies came and, put their ads back on the videos. But for that little dip there, whenever they pulled out ads, it was them and a couple other people that pulled out ads. My revenue dropped, pretty hard, which is unfortunate whenever it's, your full-time job. But thankfully it did rebound. And YouTube has always been kind of a roller coaster ride. There's some months, depending on the advertising revenue, like Christmas time, everyone wants to advertise their newest toy or whatever it is they want to advertise for Christmas. So their advertising budgets are way higher, which means, we as YouTubers get paid more ad revenue. But then if it's January and there's nothing to advertise, or everyone's spending the money on Super Bowl ads, no one gets paid as much money in January. So it goes kind of up and down. I mean, certain people are affected more by it than others, but I've noticed for me personally, it's like some months it's much better than other months. And so it's one of those things you kind of just have to know going into it, that it's not a consistent paycheck every month. It's always varying and it depends. Other questions here. Do you still like the Abarth 500? I do. I think it's a really cool little car. I'm actually going to be being able to drive one of the cars for Road to SEMA. If you guys watched last year's Road to SEMA video, Dodge provided us with a bunch of cars, Fiat Chrysler, to drive from Vegas or from LA to Vegas. And so this year, one of the cars we're going to have is an Abarth 500 Cabrio, I think, and I'll probably get some seat time in that. I really enjoyed the one that I drove many years ago, even though that one was modified. They're really cool little cars, and so yeah, I like them a lot. Other questions here. Is your wife going to get a Range Rover when her lease is up on the Benz? No. So yeah, if you watch the wife tag Q&A video that we did, I think we posted that last year, or yeah, I think it was last year. She mentioned in that she was kind of into the Range Rover Evoque. Since then, though, yeah, she has kind of lost interest in the Range Rover. She's really a big Mercedes-Benz fan now. And understandably so. I mean, they have some of the best interiors in the luxury car segment, in my opinion, currently. And so she probably wants to get a GLC after she's done with her C-Class here. She'd like the GLC 43, mid-level AMG version. We'll have to see, how that works out financially and stuff. But, GLC, she kind of wants an SUV, so that's probably going to be the next step for her. Luke's asking, is the Vintage Car Fan channel dead? Those of you that have been following for a long time know that I did have a second channel. I still do have it. It's called Vintage Car Fan. If you go on my current channel homepage here, you'll see it's the top channel listed there. And that's because I love it. I love classic cars and have a huge passion for them. And honestly, I would love to do more videos on that channel, Luke. I have a folder on my desktop of videos I haven't uploaded that I just need to edit and do voiceovers for, from car shows that I've attended in the past few years. It's just, again, a time thing. I have so much stuff going on with this channel. It takes up all of my time. That's why I'm like, I don't play video games. I don't own a video game console because I don't have time to play video games. Like, I wish I did. It'd be a lot of fun. And it's the same thing. I would love to do the second channel. It just comes down to time. And I just simply do not have any kind of free time for that, unfortunately. So I foresee the Vintage Car Fan channel being something that maybe I can get into in the future. If I can find some way to do it a little bit easier, or find some way to manage my time better, have a little more free time. I'm not sure. It's something I still would love to get more into, but unfortunately, I think I don't know if it's dead. I mean, the videos are still there, but I haven't uploaded in years. So I guess it's fair to say that it is pretty dead and probably will stay that way for the foreseeable future, unfortunately. Someone said GLC 63. Trust me, it would be awesome if my wife could get the GLC 63, but those are not cheap. And so yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. The 43 would be nice, but we'll see what happens. Her lease isn't even up until like spring of 2019, so she's gonna have her C-Class for a while still. Am I going to make any changes to my channel? No, I think all the changes have been made here, with the name and all that kind of stuff, and I'm pretty set on keeping that the way it is. I kind of planned out this name change with the idea in mind to keep it this way and kind of future-proof it. And that's why the channel is a very broad name now with Matt Maran Motoring. Just the motoring's in there, so it's about cars, and that's it. And kind of just making it very broad, and I'm hoping to not make any other changes to it here for a while. But I do want to keep, doing more and more videos. And you'll see more varied content, with more weekend bonus reviews and things like that. But that's probably about it as far as, any changes. Someone was asking about doing POVs on the channel. I could, just strap a GoPro to my head. The problem is I used to do the true point of view videos for those that, again, were watching a long time ago. And those videos, they always did okay. But the thing is, whenever I do point of view videos, I don't want to film myself wildly breaking the speed limit. And so it's either one, I film myself breaking the speed limit and then I'm like in risk of like being thrown in jail, or two, I drive within the speed limits and then it's a boring video because no one wants to watch me drive 35 miles an hour. And so again, it's kind of like the vlogs where it's like trying to do it in a way that people are interested in is just not something I think I'm able to do. Unfortunately, but again, I'm always open to other ideas if there's an idea you have that would make sense. All right, other questions here. Favorite sports sedan? Well, currently probably the Giulia. Just my quick little drive in the Giulia. I'm hoping to do another drive, an actual review of a Giulia soon. But I think that's the car I'm currently smitten with the most. I enjoy it a lot. WRX or Civic Si, can't decide. Do you need all-wheel drive? If not, I think personally the Civic Si is a better value and just about as much fun. I think the new Civic Si, they came a really long way, especially with the turbo motor. So it's got a lot of torque. It feels just about as quick as a WRX. And again, if you haven't already watched both of my reviews on both of them to decide, that might help you, kind of figure out what you would like based off of, what it's like to drive those cars. Other question, James just joined. Thanks for joining, James. Someone said once someone posted a video breaking a crime and the police used it against them. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff where that happens, where people post a video and then all of a sudden they get thrown in jail for it. So that's why I don't really show my speed. I mean, not that I'm wildly speeding recklessly or anything like that, because I never do. I do with my car reviews, I do a couple quick pulls in a safe area with a higher speed limit. And then, on the back roads and stuff, most of those back roads are tight enough that even if I'm doing 30, 35 miles an hour, it really pushes the car enough that you get a good idea of what it's like with the handling. And so I try and, drive responsibly and, not be reckless whenever I'm reviewing cars. Jake asked, next Mercedes press car. I don't know. I currently have the E43. They did approve me for press cars, obviously, and I will be getting more in the future, hopefully. But I don't know what exactly. They were mentioning just a standard GLC 300. They're also mentioning an E400 or a GLA 45. Are all cars that are on the table. So we'll just have to wait and see what they have available to send me next. But yeah, any of those would be good for me. All right, other questions here. What's better, FRS or BRZ? They basically drive almost identically. So basically depends on which one you think you like the interior of better and which one you like the looks of better. Buy the 2018 Golf R or lease a Giulia TI. Don't have faith in Alpha's reliability. Understandable. I think from my understanding of the situation, I could be wrong, but it sounds to me like any of the things with Alpha's reliability for the new ones, for the new Giulia, have been fixed with a software update. And they're all software-based things. All the issues that I've seen all go back to sensors or computers that are incorrectly calibrated and that are causing issues. And they did this software update, which now means that it should be all fixed. And I think that most Alpha owners haven't had any issues since updating their cars. So I would like to be an optimist and think that that's it and they're good, they're reliable. But it's always an unknown. Anytime, especially an entirely new brand for the States that hasn't been here for a while, but also, just any new car, any first-year model of a car, you never really know what you're going to get. And that was kind of one of the issues with the EcoBoost, is I had a very early production EcoBoost Mustang, and there was some issues that they got worked out and made the engines a little bit stronger here on the later builds of them. And so mine was one of the ones with the weaker motors, and that's one of the things that made me paranoid about it. Is there's still some that are holding up here with 80,000 miles that have been tuned since day one that are still having a blast, having a great time, and they're totally fine. But then there's others that are totally stock and just blew whenever the person was accelerating up to 30 miles an hour from a red light. And so it's kind of always an unknown with a first model year car. If you really want to play it safe, I would say to wait for the 2018 model year cars, kind of give it a year or two to see how things pan out and then go from there. If you really want to play it on the safe side, you can get a Golf R. But Volkswagen's reliability hasn't been stellar either. They have their fair share of check engine lights and things like that that some people joke about as well. So I don't know. I mean, obviously Volkswagen's probably more reliable than Alpha just based off history, but it's hard to predict going forward in the future, which is going to be more reliable. Lucky Jerk says, your reviews seem to hold punches on criticisms with the car. Is that because you were trying to hold a good relationship with the auto companies? No. So there's a fine line between being brash and just bashing a car. And you can still, I think, what I try and do is I still will give my criticisms, but I can say them in a polite way so that it's not offending people, but it still is making them known. And that's kind of my goal. Is I don't want to be rude or, just throw a car completely to the wolves and say, oh, I don't like this. Da, da, da. And, I used to actually insert a lot more of my own personal, I guess, thoughts in my reviews. And I used to be a little harsher on cars. And for example, you want to see a video where I was really harsh. The Mustang, the 2000, I think it was a 2001 Mustang GT. Just look, it's like the SN95 Mustang GT review that I did, the New Edge version. I was pretty brutal on that car in a lot of ways, especially on the interior. And so many people got so mad at me. And I thought it was just, oh, they're just hating. But they got mad at me because I was interjecting some of my own personal opinion instead of being objective. And now I'm more objective where I say, look, this car has an interior that feels cheap to me. If that bothers you, then buy something with a nicer interior. If it doesn't bother you, then it gets the job done. That's what I always say. It gets the job done. All these cars, it gets the job done. It serves different purposes. There's different cars for different people. Some people want to be coddled in luxury. Other people want to be, in a rolling bucket that goes as fast as possible, and they care nothing about interior comfort or safety or anything. And then there's people in the middle. And so that's why I kind of just present the information and say, this is the way this is the way that is. If you like it, great. If you don't, find something else that has what you like. And so, I don't ever try and, do things for the sake of the car companies. There's no point in bashing a car. I can just say, I don't like the way this transmission shifts, instead of saying, this transmission is the worst thing ever. It's just, openly bashing a car. Instead, I'm just like, this could be better. Because again, it's not even like, I'm trying to be nice to people, but you have to keep in mind, like there's a lot of work that goes into cars, and no car company deliberately makes a car with a flaw. I think, they have to, judge their engineering costs. And, a lot of engineers say you can either have, quality, you can have like quantity or value, but you can't have both. And so there's this fine line of, okay, an engineer has to decide, we would love for the new Mustang to have 1,000 horsepower, but can we warrant a car with 1,000 horsepower? Can we make it reliable? Is this going to appeal to our largest demographic? And they have to make a lot of tough decisions. And so just because this car doesn't handle as sharp as I would like, or the throttle response isn't as sharp as I would like, I would say in my review, well, this isn't as great as I would like it to be, but there's probably good reason why the car company did that. And there's reasons why they do everything, and people work really hard to make it the best they possibly can within the resources and parameters they're given. If you're driving a $15,000 car, of course, it's not going to have the nicest interior possible. So I'm not going to say, wow, this feels cheap. It's the best you can do whenever you're building a car for $15,000. So, you know, stuff like that, I try and, you know, keep into effect. Because again, you don't want to come off as, you know, maybe that's the nicest thing someone can afford. So I can't be like, oh, this isn't nice because I'm used to driving my $35,000 Mustang GT, you know, whenever. So I'm not going to bash some $15,000 interior, because it does get the job done. For a lot of people, that's totally plenty. So, so I don't think I ever sugarcoat anything. I just, you know, I'm polite about my criticisms, I guess. But yeah, let me see. I appreciate everyone saying I do a good job in the reviews and stuff. Like I said, I always try and do the best job possible, but I'm always open to, you know, constructive criticism. If there's things that I'm not doing well or things you guys wish I would do better, you know, I certainly am always open to hearing about that. All right. Some say the Mustang auto transmission. I'm not sure what this is about. There's a couple of questions here. I'm just going to go to Luke. He says, how long does it take editing one review? So whenever I edit a car review, it usually takes me between 8 to 10 hours to edit it. So it just takes a long time between finding the right song for the intro, which, speaking of constructive criticism, is one thing I can never seem to even please half of the people with my song choices for the opening sequence of the car reviews. And that's okay. I mean, music is a very subjective thing, so I totally get it. I try and do stuff that's a little more conservative these days than I used to do, super like EDM, crazy hyper stuff back in the day. Now I try and be a little more subdued, but still doing something that is, one, copyright free, royalty free, which limits my choices a lot. But doing something that still builds excitement about the car and fits the car, but is something that, you know, is still nice to listen to as well. But so just finding the right song and then just actually putting it all together. You know, there's so much B-roll. I mean, if you watch a review from start to finish, I mean, there's just dozens and dozens of clips. You know, there's, you know, 2 different angles for the seat shot, and then I go to 2 different angles for the steering wheel shot, and all that takes time to, one, film it and then put it all into the video and line it up just right and stuff. So usually, like, all day Tuesday is devoted to editing the car review for Wednesday. So I'll wake up in the morning, find the song, put it in there, do the opening sequence, and then spend the entire day editing the review. And I'm usually done around dinner time. So it's an all-day thing to edit a car review. So yeah, it's a little more work than I think a lot of people realize. And a lot of people think like I'm filming them in real time, or, you know, I'm editing them an hour after I filmed it, and I just throw it up and it takes, you know, 30 minutes and that's it. And it's like, no, this 15-minute video took me 2 days to make. And so that's just kind of the way it goes with video editing and video production. All right, other questions here. Matt is talking video productions now. Hire someone, Matt, so you can use your time for other car reviews. That is the dream. One day, if YouTube gets lucrative enough, I would love to just show up, drive a car, and then walk off and have everyone do the filming and editing for me and just get it posted up quicker for you guys and, you know, do more videos. That would be wonderful. Unfortunately, that all costs a lot of money, and sadly, this channel doesn't make nearly enough to justify that. That's why I'm a one-man crew. Because if it's something you're going to live off of, you know, unless you're doing, again, like I said, vlogs or, you know, any kind of clickbait, stuff like that gets tons and tons of views, where you can afford production. Or if you're a really large channel, like some of these other big YouTube channels, like Motor Trend or something, for example, they get enough views. But even them, they're struggling to, you know, make money, because it's just like no one wants to subscribe. Everyone hates this Motor Trend on demand stuff, but it's like, they used to make all their money on magazine subscriptions, and, you know, these videos they produce for Motor Trend's YouTube channel, I can't remember the exact number, but it is like tens of thousands of dollars, I think, to produce each like episode of Ignition even. And it's like, so if you're going to have this big fancy crew, you have to find some way to monetize it, because you're not making enough money in ad revenue to cover your costs. And so, yeah, but, you know, maybe down the road in the future, if the channel grows enough, I would love to, you know, bring on someone to help me out with that. And that's what made the pull-apart challenge so great. Getting back to that, you know, that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm doing this live stream, is to talk about that a little bit, because the pull-apart challenge was so nice. We literally just showed up in the pull-apart yard, you know, the scrap yard there, showed up, and, you know, they put a microphone on us and then just followed us around with cameras. And we just, we're wrenching on the cars and having fun hanging out, and we never had to think about filming anything. They're doing all the editing. I didn't even see the episode until last night with everybody else. It's just like totally hands off. I just show up, I appear in it. It's fun, and then it's way better production value than what I could ever do on my own, especially. And so I would love to do stuff like that more. I'd love to, again, dream job is Top Gear or something like that would be amazing. To be like Chris Harris, just show up, drive something amazing in some awesome location, and then walk away from it and let everyone else do the work. That would be nice, but in the meantime, I enjoy editing. It's a lot of work, but it is fun. So anyway, other questions here. You should collab with RCR again. I would totally be up for that. If there was something that made sense, I would totally be up for collabing with him again. He's a really cool guy. All right. What dealership did you used to work in? So I worked at a BMW, Audi, and Porsche dealer. It was called the Swickley Car Store. It's still in Swickley, PA here, right outside of Pittsburgh. And that's where I used to work. And then I worked at Harrison Auto Sales as well, which is a used car lot. And I worked there for about a year and a half, something like that. But yeah, lots of good times. What year was your BRZ made in? Do you still have it? And what's your opinion? Because I'm thinking of getting one. No, I sold the BRZ. How long ago was that? Almost 3.5 years ago. I haven't had my BRZ for a long time. It was a lot of fun. I had a 2013 model year. It was the very first one. I had one of the first BRZs in the area, and it was a lot of fun. I put 33,000 miles on it. They're a lot of fun. Never let me down. It was always reliable. It had dumb little issues. It got condensation in the taillights. So the taillights turned into fish bowls over and over again. Other than that, though, it was great. So, yeah, I think I would definitely recommend it, as long as you don't want a super fast car, because in a straight line, they're not the fastest. And after a while, I've wanted more power, but otherwise, it's a great car. David's asking if the reviews going forward, if I can talk more about the reliability on the vehicle. That is another thing that's very hard and very subjective, because even people like Consumer Reports that do it very scientifically, a lot of people don't even consider that to be accurate. So it's really hard. Honestly, if there's a car that you're really interested in the reliability of, it's best to just go on the forums and see, for that individual car, and see what owners are saying about them and what problems they have with them. I mean, obviously there's certain brands that are more reliable than others. So like if I'm reviewing a Lexus, I'll say, well, this, will probably be more reliable than a comparable BMW just because of their reputation, but there's no guarantee that this car will be more reliable than that one. So it's always hard to give any kind of definite answer as far as reliability. I can give, safe guesses and generalizations, but it's always better to just actually go into a forum or speak to owners, physically of these vehicles, and kind of get an idea of it that way. So other questions here. Can I send you my Pagani for review? Absolutely. Please send me a message. I would love to review your Pagani. If you're anywhere remotely close to Pittsburgh, that would be fun. All right. After Dawn Design says, hey, Matt, thank you so much for being genuine and down to earth. I watch almost every video, and I make my mom watch them too. Let's turn down this back grid and see how it does. I'm glad you enjoy them. Thank you for watching them and making your mom watch them too. That's funny. My mom watches my videos as well. It's kind of funny. But yeah, I appreciate the support. It means a lot. Brian's asking if I can collab with Hawkeye STI guy. He's actually, a personal friend of mine. We go way back to grade school. He's been super busy, and so he hasn't been able to really post much on his channel. So his life's just been super busy recently. But I'd be totally up for collabing with him in the future, and open to ideas about that. Jack's asking what car I drive now. I have a 2016 Mustang GT. You can see my videos of it on my channel, and lots of good videos on the channel. It sounds like you're a little bit newer, Jack. So there's lots of good info on there you can check out if you're curious. Other questions here. Can you review my GTR? At this point, I've reviewed, I don't know what year your GTR is. You can always offer cars either through my email or social media. All the links to all that stuff's in the description of every video. But I've already done the Nismo now. Just this past week, I did the standard GTR. in 2014, and I did 2009. So unless you have like an R34 or R33, probably not going to do any more GTRs. But again, you can always offer, and we'll see, how it works out. So other questions here. Coolest car I've gotten to review, probably the McLaren 570S Spider I did a couple of weeks ago. That was really sweet. And Jay Cavs also talking about the McLaren video. Yeah, that was really awesome. I'm really a huge fan. I think if I had supercar money, that would probably be what I would buy. Because just for the value proposition of it, as far as supercars go, I mean, yes, it's crazy expensive, but for what you get for the money, I think the 570S the Spider is tough to beat, and it looks just as good with the top up as it does with the top down, which can't be said for a lot of the others. And so, yeah, I really love that 570S. That was sweet. Other questions here. Okay. Can you review a Mitsubishi 3000 GT? I would be open to reviewing one. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to try and focus more on newer cars. That seems to be what most people are interested in. At least those of you that subscribe to this channel, I think, it seems like most of the interest is in the newest stuff that comes out. Older stuff has a more limited audience and people that are interested in that. But that's a car I'd be curious to review. I just haven't had anyone offer one. But I'd be open to reviewing one down the road. Brian says, hey, Matt, I noticed you own a Mitsubishi or Mini Cooper S. Got any ownership advice? I also own one. Well, I used to own a Mini Cooper S. That was the shortest amount of time I've ever owned a car. 6 months I owned that thing, and I had to hurry up and get rid of it because it was so unreliable for me. Hopefully yours was better. Hopefully your ownership experience is good because it's hit or miss with Minis, man. If it's a hit, it's like absolutely trouble-free. Like my buddy had a Mini Cooper S. His was a 2010. He had no issues whatsoever. He loved that thing. Me, on the other hand, 6 months, I had the, what was it? The thermostat broke, which caused the car to overheat. The water pump went. It had a bunch of electrical, like weird little gremlins and stuff. And so, yeah, it's, I mean, that was enough for 6 months. It left me stranded twice. I was like, nope, this is done. I have a very low tolerance for unreliable cars, and as much as I love that Mini Cooper S, I need to get from point A to point B. I can't be, standing on the side of the road, just for the heck of it. I need to get places. So unfortunately, the Mini was not fun. You can watch my video "Bad Day" for the Mini, I think is what I called it, something like that, and see the plume of smoke coming out of it. Not a good time. So hopefully your Mini is better. Yeah. Good luck. Fingers crossed for you, man, because they are fun cars. I was so bummed when that thing let me down. I was so excited for that little car. Ben asks, would you ever own a Corvette? No. Simple reason is it doesn't have side curtain airbags, which is a really stupid reason, I know, to a lot of people. But after getting hit twice now by random things, I want a very safe car. Safety is number one to me, really. And so a car without side curtain airbags as a daily driver is something I will not do. Now, as a weekend car, stuff like the Jag F-Type, obviously with the convertible version, doesn't have side curtain airbags either. But as a weekend car, I will make an exception. And I'm hopefully going to own classic cars one day, and those obviously are not very safe. But that's, again, something I wouldn't be driving every day. For something I'm driving every day, I want it to be safe. So no Corvette, I think. Brian says, okay, your Mini is an 06. That explains it. The 05 and 06 are by far the most reliable of the Minis out there. That's like the end of the R53s. That they got most of the bugs out of them by that point. And so, yeah, most people will agree the 05s and 06s are the most reliable ones. So you picked a good one, and kudos to you. I hope it continues to treat you well. Craig said, any new Challenger news, Barracuda? So a couple of weeks ago in the weekly update, if you I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, I talked more about that. The newest news is that it's going to be getting another refresh in 2019 for the Challenger, and then 2021 is when the all-new one is coming. It's going to be based on the same platform as the Maserati Ghibli, I believe. Yeah, I think that's it. So, and then they're going to just build it off of that and do a new car, and whether it's called the Challenger or what, I'm not sure. And so we'll have to wait and see how they actually, what, I guess, direction they take the new Challenger. So yeah, thoughts on the Kia Stinger? I love the way they look. I like the value proposition of them. I'll be driving one next month, and I will be posting a review then, and I'll give all my thoughts on it then. How do you feel about the Camaro's lack of visibility? I think it's unfortunate. I think there's actually a lot of people that have decided against buying them for that reason. And I personally think it would kind of bother me a little bit, but it's a shame because the Camaro is like fantastic in every other way. And it's something I think you can get used to. But yeah, it is what it is, I guess. What is the best commuter sports car looking under 30K? Again, do you want handling? Do you want, power? GTI is a good pick, especially if you sit in traffic in a commute. DSG GTIs are a great car. One of the best, I think, for the money, but then also Mustangs, Challengers, Camaros, stuff like that's great too. Best sports sedan around 10 grand. That is a tough one. 10 grand. What? Sports sedan. See, I don't even know. I mean, you can get like a nice Civic Si sedan for 10 grand. That would be a top pick that's reliable. But sports sedans, that's going to be tough under 10 grand. I'll have to think about that one a little bit. Any favorite TV shows? I watch a bunch of shows with the wife. I really like a lot of the Comedy Wednesday stuff on ABC. We watch the Goldbergs, Modern Family. And what's some others? I mean, obviously, like as far as car shows go, I watch Top Gear, and the Grand Tour is great. But yeah, other than that, trying to think of other stuff that we watch that I'm really into. Jay Leno's Garage, that's one. It's actually better than a lot of people might expect. Jay Leno's Garage on CNBC. It's a really good show, especially for people that are beginning into like the whole journey of cars and stuff. I think it's a very good show for newcomers and people that might not know everything about cars and might not care about it being a super untechnical show. It's just a fun show to watch Jay Leno with all these cool and interesting and unique cars and the different themes every week. And so Jay Leno's Garage is a really cool show, and I like that one a lot. But other shows that I really enjoyed, I think Timeless is coming back here. Thankfully, they were like talking about canceling it, but now they're bringing it back, which is a really cool show about time travel that I enjoyed. That's probably about as far as Stranger Things. I'm excited for Stranger Things 2 here coming out next week. That's going to be sweet because the first series is really good. And yeah, so other questions here. When I get the Mustang Bullitt, am I going to tune it? Absolutely not. I am going to leave it totally stock. I'm almost certain. I might slightly change the exhaust if it's not loud enough or not the type of sound I want, because the current 2018 Mustang GT Active exhaust sounds kind of raspy to me, so I might want to swap in an H-pipe to make it sound a little more deeper and muscle car-like. So we'll have to wait and see, but I mean, especially if a Bullitt is a rare vehicle and a limited production thing, I probably want to keep it stock just to preserve its value. Not that I plan on selling it, but I just wouldn't want to modify it a ton and have it lose value for that reason. All right, other questions here. Is the Mitsubishi GT concept a thing? I'm not sure what you're referring to with the GT concept. They have the new E-Evolution, which is the new Evo crossover hybrid thing, but that's the newest thing that I've heard about. iPhone or Android? iPhone. Do you think the Bullitt will have a bigger engine? No, I think it's going to probably still stick with the 5-liter, although I'm not totally certain on that, but most likely the 5-liter. Icy Alex asks where I'm from. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania here. That's where I born and raised. Other questions. What about Scion TC? That's another great starter car for those that are looking for a fun car to get started with. Really a cool car for the money, I think, the Scion TCs. I reviewed one several years ago, the second-gen version. I've always wanted to review a first-gen, but haven't had a chance to. Do you recommend any Lexus sports cars such as the ISF? Yeah, I think they're great. I actually did a review of an ISF, and you can watch my video on it to see what I thought about it. But it's a really fun car, and yeah, I think it's kind of underrated. I think they're better than a lot of people make them out to be. Other questions here. Did I grow up with Wiz Khalifa? I did not grow up with Wiz Khalifa. Coming to Houston anytime. I have no plans to make it down to Houston. I just don't have any opportunities to. From a design perspective, how do you feel about the iPhone 10 notch up top? It's whatever. I think I'm a little underwhelmed with the design of it. I'm probably going to get one anyway, just because I want the better camera, and it'll be cool to kind of have the bigger screen finally. But I'm not like head over heels for the design of it. But yeah, I think they could have done a little bit better with it. I've really, honestly, this just dawned on me. The one thing that I was disappointed by with the new iPhone is I was hoping it would actually have the curved edges for the display, kind of like the Androids do. I kind of like that infinity display. That would be really cool. I was hoping that was what was going to come with the iPhone 10, and it turns out it's just like, hey, we got rid of the home button and gave you a little bit more screen, which is a little, like I said, a little underwhelming, but it's whatever. That's the way Apple does things. Someone's asking, when am I coming to SoCal? I'll be there next weekend. I'm going there for the road to SEMA. I'm going from LA to Vegas, our little road trip like we did last year. So that will be the next time I am in SoCal. And then I'll be back out there for the Kia Stinger press launch that I'll be doing in the middle of November. So twice in almost 1 month. It's overlapping another month, but yeah, in the next couple of weeks I'll be there twice. All right. Someone said they released a Subaru WRX concept a little while back that you covered. Do you think they'll release that concept anytime soon? Nope. That concept, I think that came out, what was that, 2013 or 14? That was supposed to be a teaser for their design direction for the 2015 WRX, and obviously they toned it down a lot, and that's typical Subaru. They, like a lot of car companies, it's not just Subaru, but they make really sweet looking concept cars and then make it totally boring for the actual production one. I mean, I love the styling of the 2015 WRX. I think they're great, but that concept looks so sweet. So a little bit of a bummer, but yeah, they're never going to make it look as sweet as that concept, sadly, which is unfortunate. What's the next video coming up? I have a Nissan Rogue Sport little bonus review that I'll either be posting tomorrow or Monday. So a little extra review there, and then I got another sweet sports car review coming on Wednesday. Favorite car you have reviewed? It's, again, I mentioned this earlier. I think it's hard to say just one. I think my top like 5 are like the GT350, the Jag F-Type R, the McLaren 570S. Probably the Hellcat ranks pretty highly up there. Even this Mercedes GTC Roadster was really sweet. So this is probably some of my top 5. There's lots of other good ones too. Thanks for joining us, Zach, even though you can't watch because you're at work. Yeah, someone's mentioning, do I like Breaking Bad? I watched like the first episode, but I never got into Breaking Bad. Whenever that was on, I was super into Mad Men, and that was my my show that I kind of was full on interested in at that point. So yeah, never really got into Breaking Bad. Go-to fast food place, Sonic. I love Sonic. I love the retroness of Sonic, and then drive up, little stalls there and stuff. So Sonic is my go-to place. Otherwise, I kind of vary between all the other big ones pretty evenly. Icy Alex says, I always wondered, why did you change your channel name again? I have a whole video talking about that. If you just search name change on the channel, it'll come up and it gives all the reasons as to why I changed it. After Dawn Design says, I hinted to my girlfriend that I wanted a couple of your shirts and hoodies for Christmas, but I don't think I can wait that long. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I'm glad you like the designs. Yeah, it's all still available still, and the link is always in the description of every video for the store. I'm going to keep them available, for as long as possible here, and we'll probably add a limited edition Subaru X-Fan shirt at some point. But for now, I'm sticking with those shirt designs. I'm glad you like them. Yeah, it seems like you guys have enjoyed them. I mentioned earlier, Saab Kyle texted me a picture. He was on the Tail of the Dragon, I think last weekend or something, and someone was wearing the Let's Turn Down on This Back Road shirt on the Tail of the Dragon, which is like the best place to wear that shirt. So it was really cool to see someone out wearing it and wearing it in such a cool spot too. Andrew says, can you help me with my chem lab report? I'm sorry, I was horrible at chemistry. That chemistry is what kept me from being a mechanical engineer. I really wanted to be a mechanical engineer. I went to Virginia Tech and started in the program, and freshman year kicked my butt, and I was horrible at chemistry. It was an 8 a.m. class too, to make it even worse, and it was just not fun. And yeah, so chemistry is definitely not one of my strengths. But good luck with your report. Hopefully, hopefully it works out for you. Newt asks, what dealership do I get my Mustang serviced at? I get it serviced at Barrel Ford, which is up in Zelienople there. And I take it there. I used to take it to Schultz, where Zach actually works at Schultz. But after they burned me, if you guys a couple years ago saw, I took the video down since because it ended up turning into way more of a fiasco than I ever anticipated it being. But there is a lot attendant there who hopped in my EcoBoost back when I had it, and he kept calling the car junk over and over again. And I had my dash cam rolling, and he says he didn't see the dash cam, but whenever you start the car up, it makes a noise in the dash cam to show that it's recording, and it's hanging right on the windshield. So how he didn't see it, I don't know, but he was like talking trash on the car. And I uploaded the video to YouTube thinking it was like hilarious, like, oh, this guy's like trash talking my car, ha ha. And I wasn't offended. I wasn't mad. The guy didn't joyride it. He just was moving it, from one part of the lot to the other, and was not a fan of it. And I just thought it was funny. And then, the owner of the dealership got all mad at me and left me an angry voicemail. And they, were just like, I was like, look, I even deliberately blurred the dealership's name so that it didn't reflect poorly on the dealer. This was just because it was funny. And they were just embarrassed by it. And apparently the guy had been a problem source in the past. So they ended up actually letting him go. They said it wasn't just because of my video. There was other reasons why, but I still felt bad because it wasn't like it was that big of a deal. And so anyway, after that whole fiasco, I'm like, never again, Schultz, just not for me. And so I go to Barrel now. But anyway, the guy, I don't think the guy works there anymore, Zach. I'm pretty sure they got rid of him. But all right, so other questions here. What do you think of the Mercedes G-Class? So me and my wife have a running joke about the G-Wagon because it's like she always makes this joke like, oh, it's so sweet. And I personally, like, both of us do not like the G-Wagon. I think so. I drove a couple of them back when I used to work at dealerships, and the G-Wagon, I mean, it's actually like based on like a super old platform, and it drives like a car from like the 70s or the 80s. Like it was, speaking of someone a long time ago in this live stream asked what was one of the worst cars I've ever driven, the G-Wagon is right up there as one of the worst in my opinion, as far as handling stuff. I mean, obviously it's an off-roading type of, SUV, but man, it just felt like so cheap for Mercedes. I was like, man, how do people like these things? Like if anyone test drove one, I can't imagine someone test driving a G-Wagon personally. Like, I no disrespect to Mercedes because they have their niche. It's a very cool look, and some people just buy a car strictly for its looks. But I can't see someone test driving a G-Wagon, the current gen, and being like, wow, this thing drives really nice. I want to buy this for 150 grand or however much they car. It's just like there's so many nice cars you can get for that kind of money that are smooth, even within Mercedes' own lineup. Get GLE or get any of the other very nice SUVs they make. I just don't see the appeal of the G-Wagon personally, but that's another little rant. But yeah. Well, my next car, what will be your next car? Bullitt. Yeah, the Bullitt is going to be the next car for sure. Luke asks, what do I have a degree in? I have a degree in financial planning. I got from Virginia Tech and never really used it. So that was whenever the YouTube channel started to gain some traction, and I just decided to do that instead. What do you think about the 2018 Subaru Crosstrek? Can you please review it? I would be open to it if Subaru sent me press cars, but strangely, Subaru is one of the people that refuses to send me press cars still. I've even talked to like the higher up guys at Subaru, and they appreciate all the ownership insight I gave into the BRZ and my passion for the WRX back in the day, but they're like, yeah, that's nice, but we're not giving you press cars. I'm like, okay, sounds good. So if someone offers one, I might review one. But the problem with the Crosstrek is it's so slow. I mean, there are other small SUVs that don't have, that don't have very much power either, but it's just like pain. I think it's like 10.5 seconds 0 to 60 for Crosstreks. It's just like, I just don't think I would enjoy driving a Crosstrek at all. I know my buddy Jason, Engineering Explained, has one. He loves it with the manual. It's probably fun. And for him, it's just an economical commuter that can go up in the snow and in the mountains. And he's got his S2000 for whenever he wants to drive fast. So in that kind of context, it makes sense. But as my only car, I think I would be it would just not be enough for me. I really wish they'd put the WRX motor in the Crosstrek. That would be amazing and solve a lot of its problems. But I'd be open to reviewing one down the road. So, what does your wife do? She is a nanny. She nannies for a family. They have 3 kids, and she watches them. If you had 40 to 50K to buy a second fun car, not a daily driver, what would it be? Base model F-type convertible that's used, obviously. So other questions here. Craig's asking lease or finance. It depends on the situation. Certain situations, cars lease better than finance. It depends on how much driving you do, what type of driving you do. You know, if you are the type of person that wants to keep a car for a long time or get rid of it, you know, and you like getting something new all the time. You know, so it all depends on your situation there. Other questions. When will you collab with Street Speed 717? I'd love to collab with him again at some point here. I don't know when we'll have another opportunity to, because I don't think he's coming to Pittsburgh anytime soon. And I probably am not coming to Hershey anytime soon either, you know, Harrisburg, where he's at. So that's certainly something I'd be up to doing, though, you know, again, in the future. He's a cool guy, and I've known him ever since he's got, you know, like 5,000 subscribers. And he's the same guy now as he was back then, and I really respect that. My first car was a 1997 Subaru Outback Sport. Alex is asking. I have a video that talks. It's called "I Ran a Carfax on All My Old Cars." You can go back and watch that, and I go more in depth about all the cars I've owned over the past 10 years of driving, I guess. Another question here. Is it true that Mustangs have low safety ratings? That is not true. It actually was almost a top safety pick from the IIHS this past year. It got poor ratings in Europe for the lack of it having automatic braking, and then because they said the seatbelts in the back seat didn't lock quickly enough, or they didn't hold in the rear seat occupants well enough in an accident. But the United States cars haven't had any of those issues. They've passed with flying colors. It actually got a good rating for everything except the small overlap crash test. I think that it got an acceptable, which is still very good for small overlap. A lot of cars struggle with that. For example, the Challenger got a poor rating for the small overlap, and they said if you got in a small overlap crash in a Challenger at 40 miles an hour, you would lose your left leg, or at least from the knee down. Like that's the Challenger safety. The Mustang will actually save your leg. The Camaro is the best out of all 3, and you'll be totally fine. But that's the safety ratings. But the Mustang is a very safe car, and I can personally attest to the safety of the Mustang, considering I had a tree fall on me, and the roof was strong enough that it held up. And the insurance adjuster said he's seen accidents where a tree has fallen on a roof, and lots of times people die. Actually, a week before my tree incident, some guy was driving a Nissan Altima on his way to work. Tree fell on him, dead instantly. Another thing where there was, I think, a car full of people. They were in something like an Altima 2, and they were driving. There's 4 of them in the car, and one of the people died when a tree fell on it. So, and the guy said if you had been in a convertible, you would have been dead. It's like because you had the hardtop roof of the Mustang and it was strong, that's what saved your life. I definitely think I can say that the Mustang is a safe car. I can personally attest to that. And then whenever that motorcyclist sideswiped me when he was doing like 50 to 55 miles an hour at least, and the car took a hard hit to the side of it, even in a motorcycle. It was a hard hit. I mean, they said parts of the motorcycle were wedged into my door. That's how hard he hit me and impacted the side of that car. No issues. I mean, the door didn't cave in. That car is a solid car. I will swear up and down the Mustang is super well built, super safe car, and I can't say high enough things about the Mustang safety. Other questions here. Would you buy an H2 Hummer if you had the cash for it? No. That's a tough car to drive. I actually used to drive those back when I worked at the dealerships and stuff. It's a tough car to drive for sure. As being a car salesman with BMW, Audi, etc., still a worthy career? It certainly can be. It's tough to make money with new car sales because everyone knows the invoice prices on cars, and no one cares to pay you for your time. No one values the services of a car salesman anymore. So everyone wants a car for nothing, and they don't realize that people have to pay their bills and keep their lights on. And so it's definitely tough to make money in, I think. I think used cars are a better place to make money in because with used cars, people don't know how much the dealership paid for it. So there's always that safer margin, so that it's always a guessing game on the consumer's side of it as far as how much they might have paid for the vehicle. But I think there's a better margin there. And so actually, some of the more successful car salesmen I've seen have been used car salesmen, and that's where you can kind of make some money. A lot of the new car salesmen I've seen that even work at Audi dealerships and stuff, I mean, they could afford a bag of chips for lunch, and that was about it. Like, I mean, that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but like there were some tough times, especially I worked at a car dealership back during the recession when nobody was buying luxury cars. And so it can be feast or famine sometimes. So, just definitely something to consider. But if you're really passionate about the product, and you're with a good brand and a good dealership that has things structured well, I think it can certainly be a good career. And I know lots of people that enjoy being salesmen. Speaking of salesmen, actually the next question here is from one of my old coworkers at Harrison Auto Sales. I have a big one. Says, is it true you still owe Harrison Auto Sales a dozen of donuts? so I think what he's trying to say, we had a running joke that I don't visit there as often as I would like after I quit working there, just because it's a little bit out of the way from where I live. It's about a 15-minute drive from me now, and so I always tell them next time I come, it's on me to bring some donuts. It was always everyone took turns bringing in donuts every once in a while. So yes, I definitely am bringing the donuts next time I can swing by. I promise I'll swing by soon. It's just I've been so busy with travel. I flew 4 different places in the past 4 weeks, and I got another 2 trips to LA coming up here in the next 3 weeks. So it's just once I can finally chill, maybe this winter. I don't think I have a ton of stuff planned yet for this winter, so maybe I can actually hang out at Harrison Auto Sales then. Anyway, other questions. Did the city pay you for the damage on the GT Mustang? No, it wasn't the city thing, so it was actually in a park. For those of you in Pittsburgh, it was in North Park. And so I guess that's county property technically, but it's kind of an act of God thing because there had been a lot of winds that week, and it had rained the night before, so the trees were a little bit heavier. It was clear whenever I was driving. There wasn't any kind of weather situation going on when I was driving, but I think it was just those trees are really old in those parks, and a lot of them are probably dead or dying, and maybe the park should have done something to monitor these trees more, but it's kind of hard to, predict when a tree is going to fall. So I couldn't blame them. I mean, I talked to the insurance company about it, and they're like, nope, we'll just cover it. It's just the way it goes. This happens all the time. Apparently it happens a lot more than I realized. So yeah, the insurance company paid it out, and that was that. All right. Other questions. Craig asked, have you ever gotten a speeding ticket with any of the cars you reviewed? I talked about this earlier in the video, but no, I actually have never, knock on wood, gotten a ticket while reviewing a car. So I just do a couple quick little accelerations, and after that, I don't really speed too much. So I try and be very responsible with my driving on public roads. All right, James is asking what my favorite car is. That's really hard to say. There's so many really good cars. That I love. I love the F-types. The Lexus LC500 is a new favorite. You guys will see that review either next week or the following week. But man, I love the LC500. That's one of my new favorites. I love the McLaren 570S. I think one of my all-time favorite cars, if money were no object, is the Ferrari F12 TDF. Excuse me. So that's one of my favorites. But yeah. Another thing here, Mr. Mike's asking, do you think the Hellcat would be a fun second car for a person with a couple kids? They'll fit in the back, right? Yeah, Hellcat Challengers are great with the back seat. I mean, you can actually fit adults in the back of a Challenger fairly comfortably as long as they're under 6 feet tall. But kids, absolutely. And I think that's a great car. Like I said, not the safest, just with small overlap crashing tests if you care about that. But otherwise, yeah, Hellcats are awesome fun. I think that'd be a fun little second car as well. All right, other questions. What would you choose between a Chevy Camaro ZL1 and a Ford Mustang? I'm guessing you mean the Mustang GT350. Because if you're talking about my current Mustang versus ZL1, I'd love to have the ZL1, but that's an extra 25 grand over the sticker of the Mustang. So yeah, a lot more expensive, but very fun cars, both of them. Someone's asking, when did I get my first car? I got it as soon as I got my driver's license, which was whenever I was 16 and a half. And that was my parents handed me down my 1997 Subaru Legacy, or Subaru Impreza Outback Sport, and I had that for 9 months or a year, and then I traded that in on a 2006 Legacy GT Spec B. Kays asks, what do you feel about salvage cars or rebuilding a salvaged car? So I think it's a good idea if that kind of thing doesn't worry you. I think the only thing is once you've taken a car apart, whether it's for modifications or because of accidents or whatever, it's never going to be as tight, after you've taken it apart. A lot of times I've even noticed when the BRZ and stuff, and if you take panels off and stuff and put them back on, they're more prone to rattle, and that kind of stuff can happen. So there might be some other stuff like that that is a little bit more of I guess an issue. But other than that, I think that. Sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, so other than that, I think, auto body shops and stuff, like that's what happened with my Mustang GT that got crushed by the tree, is they, bought it off of me, and the guy's just driving it, and he says it's actually stronger than one from the factory because their welds, when they put all these new parts on, are actually stronger than the welds from the factory that the robots do. And so he says that therefore it is a safer and more structurally sound car, actually. So you can actually, in his opinion, I think it makes a lot of sense. You can come out with a better car if you repair a salvaged car. But again, it's always got that bad history, which again, if you're superstitious and stuff, can be a little iffy. But yeah. So other questions here. Iva Biggin says, if YouTube were to implode today, what would you do? So, I mean, like I said, I still have my financial planning degree I could always fall back on. And that would be something I would consider, but I love cars and that's my passion. So I would probably try to still do something with cars. I mean, I would hope that, I have built up enough of a reputation, and I guess I've built up enough experience with reviewing cars that hopefully I could, if YouTube were to go away someday, I could transplant to some other platform and continue doing something similar, or, write articles and, work for a magazine or something if, that was something that was a little more, that paid decently these days, but otherwise, I could see myself, working on the PR side of the car stuff and, working and writing press releases and working to get press cars to people and, working and doing promotions and promoting cars and doing all kind of stuff. There's actually a lot of automotive reviewers who start off, especially journalists who start off writing for websites or magazines, and they end up switching over to the PR side and working for a car company and doing PR stuff. So I think that would probably be the most likely step for me if something were to happen to YouTube, but I'm not too worried about it. Car Freak 85 says, what are you drinking today? I am drinking LaCroix. I haven't drank any of it really since I've been live streaming here, so let me take this opportunity to take a drink. But yeah, I've been on a LaCroix kick in the past few months here. I kind of really like them because I used to drink a lot of soda, but it just kind of didn't make me feel super great. So this, it hydrates you, it's water, but it still has that kind of element of it's got a little bit of flavor, a little bit more to it than just flat water. And so, yeah, I am a LaCroix fan now. Rainey says, how is the mass demonetization treating you? I have not been demonetized at all, thankfully. YouTube has its ups and downs with advertising and things like that, but I haven't had any videos demonetized, knock on wood. That only affects, it seems, people who do more controversial stuff. Those are the ones that get demonetized, but car reviews where I don't swear, I don't say anything controversial, are very safe. So no issues there whatsoever. All right. Another person asking why I decided to change the channel name. I have a video that explains all of that. You just type in name change and search for that under the channel there, and it'll have my video talking all about that. All right. Other questions here. What do you prefer, GM or Ford? I love them both. I think obviously I like the Mustang better than the Camaro currently, but that's just my own personal preference and bias from, I just, ever since Bullitt, the movie, whenever I saw that for the first time when I was like 7 or 8, I always loved Mustangs, and I think that's kind of carried over to other Ford products as well. But there's a lot of Ford products that aren't that great, and I think a lot of the GM stuff is a lot nicer as well. So, as far as luxury stuff goes, I would certainly take a Cadillac over a Lincoln and, things like that. But yeah. So, other questions here. Matt wants to be the next Jeremy Clarkson. That would be wonderful, but I don't think I'll ever be as funny as Jeremy Clarkson, unfortunately. He's unmatched. He's truly one of a kind. So, Mr. Mike's asking, what is Ford putting into the Bullitt to make it unique enough from the GT and the GT350? We'll have to wait and see, what they end up doing, because I honestly don't know much about the Bullitt. I might know a little bit more than everyone else out there, just from some connections I have. But even a lot of the stuff that I've heard isn't concrete. So I still don't know. I think it's going to be a very niche vehicle. I think it's going to sell based off its look. I know in the past the Bullets have been like a performance package car, but that was before there was a performance package car. Like the Bullitt had the 373 rear gears because you couldn't get that in a normal Mustang, and so people got the Bullitt because it was more performance oriented. But nowadays, you can get a performance pack GT, and now with the 2018s, there's this performance pack 2, which is now being called the Tremor package, possibly. And that, so you can have all that stuff. You don't need a Bullitt to have higher performance now. I think the Bullitt is going to be more about the look of, okay, so you don't want all the badges, and you want something that's low key and sleeper, and you want the dark green color. Then you can go for the Bullitt look. And it might have a couple other little retro throwbacks, but honestly, I think I don't think people are going to buy the new Bullitt for its performance. I could be wrong. They might have some cool stuff up their sleeve, but I really don't think it's going to be anything like that. Luke asks if I make any money off of Instagram. I don't. I mean, with some of my sponsored stuff, it's a two-part thing where it's like I post, like with the Shell videos that I did 2 of those this year. It's a video on YouTube, and then it's also Instagram posts are part of it. And if it is something I'm making money off of on Instagram, which, like I said, is very rare, it always has a hashtag ad, so that you'll know that it's something that I've paid for, or that I've been paid to do. So someone said, I tried LaCroix, and boy, was it bad. So here's the thing. Speaking of the LaCroix again, I hated it when I first tried it too, because my buddy was really into them, and he was like, oh, you should try it. It's really good. So I tried it, and I was like, man, this is bitter. But I gave it a second try, and I kind of acquired a taste for it. Now, given I enjoy whiskey and other very strong bitter drinks, so I think it's something that you can acquire a taste for anything. At least I can. So I think that might be part of the reason why I've kind of gotten used to the LaCroix. But now I don't think they're bitter. I think they actually taste good. But I understand where you're coming from with the LaCroix not tasting very good. I totally get it. Brian asks, Chili's or Fridays? Fridays for sure. Are you still a fan of the Subaru WRX? Kind of, but I think it's not quite as good as it used to be. I think Subaru kind of got a little lazy and a little comfortable with it, and it shows. But that's just my personal opinion. Luke asked if people started reaching out to me more after the name change. They did, actually. So it's opened up all kinds of doors. I think that's why a lot of this stuff is happening now. All of a sudden, I've been getting all these nicer press cars, the Mercedes, the Mazdas, Kia. I'm going to be going on press launches. All this stuff I think is partially happening because of the name change. Because I think for a lot of these car companies, it was, like Subaru's a competitor. We're not going to give you our stuff, because people automatically assumed with my old name that, oh, he just likes Subaru WRXs, or that's all he covers. And so, now I think people are kind of getting more open-minded to the channel and stuff based off of the new name, which is the exact goal I had for it. So yeah. One question, or hold on 1 second here. I'll probably be wrapping this up fairly soon, just as a heads up to everyone. All right. Keep on going here. Since you seem to love both in your reviews, Nissan 350Z or AP1 Honda S2000, depends what you're going for. Personally, I think the S2000 is the more fun car. The 350Z is the more well-rounded car. So I think at the end of the day, if I had to pick one to own as a daily driver, I would own the 350Z, but as a weekend car, I would have the S2000. Other questions. Have I ever crashed a car, and what car was it, and when did you start driving? Started driving when I was 16 and a half. I haven't personally been at fault for an accident, but I have been in 2 accidents now, like the tree that I mentioned earlier that fell on my roof back in June, and then the prior June. Every June is bad for me the past 2 years. The prior June was when the motorcyclist sideswept my Mustang GT, And so yeah, 2 hits for that car, that poor car, did not have good luck. So those are the only 2 accidents that I've been the driver. I've been a passenger in other accidents whenever I was younger that weren't super major. One was just like a T-bone incident that was fairly low speeds, and then the other one was whenever I was a little kid, I was rear-ended. But that's about it. Ryan says, "Hey Matt, I haven't heard anything on the Bullitt yet." Thanks for joining, Ryan. By the way, Ryan's the guy that has the '08 Bullitt that I did a review of a couple of months ago. That sounded amazing. That was a really fun vehicle review. He said, "We were told we were getting a new info packet on some new product in the coming weeks. I'll keep you posted." Thank you. That is exciting to hear. I didn't hear about that. So a new info packet. Interesting. You can see I'm like grasping at any new info I can get on this. So I appreciate that. That's really cool because I can't think of any other new product they would get in the next coming weeks. I know the EcoSport is coming, the little Ford crossover, but hopefully it's for the Bullitt. Fingers crossed. I've been hearing that they were showing up in the Ford system, the Bullitt, in some form. But then I think that kind of was an iffy thing, and that was kind of unconfirmed. Ford said it was a hoax, but pretty sure it wasn't. I don't know. It's all kind of up in the air. So hopefully we hear something official soon, because I am just dying to hear some kind of official thing. I'm like, Ford, like, take my money. That's what I'm like. That's I need that GIF right now. That animation is totally applicable to me. All right. So yeah, probably got another 20 minutes to go here, then I'll probably have to wrap this up. So man, there's all kinds of questions here. I apologize. I wasn't scrolling here and I see all these other questions have popped up. James says, "You have any way for us to support your channel besides merch?" Well, thank you. I appreciate the offer. Honestly, the best way to support is just by watching the videos, because that benefits everyone. If everyone, watches the videos, then and subscribes, of course, and spreads the word and has their friends and everyone else they know subscribe, that helps the channel to grow. And then the channel grows, and then I get better opportunities to review more cool cars, and more companies want to work with me to review awesome cars, and that just provides you guys with better videos. So it's really, and they look at that stuff. That's the first thing. I was talking to PR guys not too long ago here, and there was a couple of them, and they're like, these are the first things we check, is we say, okay, what views are they getting on their videos? What are their follower counts? What's their social media accounts? All that kind of stuff, is stuff that they care about these days. So it really does make a difference, and that's why it's important. Even with this pull apart episode, that I've been talking about here and went live last night. The links in the description below there. That we want to do more of those. And so if they're popular, and it's already seeming like it's going to be pretty popular, and hopefully we'll be able to do them again. But, stuff like that, it's like, it doesn't happen again unless people watch it and unless people enjoy it and share it, and it does well. And so that's really the best way to support. Like you said, the merch is another good way to support the channel if you want to pick up merch. I think I still have the YouTube tip jar thing that they rolled out, which if you go to the homepage for the channel, there's in the upper right corner, I think there's still a link there for if you want to just actually make a donation. I totally am not asking for anything like that. I'm totally fine. I appreciate, wanting to support. And like I said, I think just watching the videos, subscribing, and sharing them is really the best way to help the channel. But I appreciate that. That means a lot. Other questions here. Do you own a pet animal? Yes. So we have a cat. She's a Maine Coon. Her name is Daisy. And if you want to follow her, my wife would be very happy because she runs the Instagram page. It's Crazy Miss Daisy, I believe, is the full name. Let me just double check. Crazy Miss Daisy Kitten. I apologize. So if you on Instagram, Crazy Miss Daisy Kitten is our cat. If you're curious, and you can follow her on there. My wife posts a picture every day, and she's pretty awesome. Jam and Smith says, "What's your favorite whiskey?" Canadian Club is always my go-to. I do like Maker's Mark. I'm not super picky, honestly. There's a few that I guess I haven't liked a ton in the past, but I like most of them. I'm not super picky. Subaru needs to add more power to the BRZ. Amen. I've been saying that since 2013, and I wish they would agree, but unfortunately they don't. Other questions here. What do you think of gaming? I don't have time for it. I think it's awesome if you do have time for it. I would love to game more. I'm probably going to buy an Xbox One. I mentioned this at the beginning of the live stream. I'm probably going to buy an Xbox One at some point here because of the LA Noire remaster that's coming out. That's like probably my favorite game of all time is LA Noire. So I'm going to probably buy that just for the remaster. And I might pick up like Forza 7 and maybe Horizon 3. And also the new Need for Speed game I'm kind of curious about. And also the new Call of Duty being World War II. I'm into World War II stuff a little bit. So those would be some cool games to play, but I just don't have time. I really wish I had time to play video games, and I might have a little more time this winter because things seem to slow down a little bit for me in the wintertime. But I just usually just do not have time to play video games. I'm just so consumed with this channel and just, with married life and, all the things, you have to do around the house and all that kind of stuff. So lots of stuff. And unfortunately, I just don't have the time to game. I wish I did. All right. Other questions here. I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom so that people aren't waiting too much. Have you ever crashed a press car? Knock on wood, thank God, no. I've never crashed a press car. Never had any issues with press cars. So that's really good because that would not be good. Do you want to review the Toyota Tundra? I mean, yeah, truck reviews are another thing that people on this channel aren't super into, it seems. So not super eager to do a Tundra, but they seem to be very good trucks. There's that guy that drove on 1,000,000 miles and it was still like perfect. So very impressive trucks, it seems. So what's your editing software and what kind of camera do you use? Someone asks here. I actually have a FAQ video that I did a couple of years ago that shows, just type in camera gear on my channel and it'll come up. Also, you can see all the products that I use, like all the cameras, my software, all that kind of stuff in my Amazon link that I have in the description of every video now as well. So I use Adobe Premiere Pro for my editing. I edit on an iMac at 27-inch 5K. And I have a Canon T3i. I have a Sony Handycam, a couple of GoPros. That's about it. So another question here. What must-have options would you get for your Bullitt Mustang? It really comes down to what stuff they make standard on the Bullitt and what comes with the Bullitt package. But as far as 2018s go, like if I were just to order 2018, I think the only options I would do, the performance package is nice, but it's gotten so expensive in the past couple of years. $4,000 for the performance package to me isn't worth it for me because I would never track the car. So I don't need Brembo brakes. I don't need the track suspension and stiffer ride. I would want the softer ride of the regular GT. So I would just do a standard GT with the active exhaust, and then I would do the shaker sound system, and it would be manual, of course. It'd be the premium, and then I would probably do the safe and sound package just because I really like the blind spot monitoring, and the rear cross traffic detection is like so nice to have. So that would be something I think I would probably add that package to, but I'm not totally sure because that now for 2018 has the autonomous braking, which I really don't like, but it also has the adaptive cruise control, which I would like to have. So I would probably get that package. It's only like $1,500, so not too bad. So those are probably the options I would get. Matt, what do you think of the 2010 Lexus IS350? I haven't ever reviewed one. I think I drove one briefly once, and it felt kind of slow, to be perfectly honest, with the 250 motor. I would not get MagneRide shocks if I got a Bullitt. So I reviewed Camaros and Corvettes with the MagneRide, or magnetic ride control, they call it. And I personally, I actually drove a Camaro back-to-back, one that did not have magnetic ride control and one that did. On the streets at reasonable speeds, I honestly could not tell a difference. It might be a slight bit like smoother or something, but it's certainly not worth, because with the Mustang, the way that they're doing the MagneRide is you can only get it if you get the performance package. So performance package is $4,000, and then MagneRide's like another like $1,700. So basically you're paying like $6,000 more for MagneRide. I mean, you're getting all this other stuff as well, but like there's no way it's worth that much money to me personally. Lots of people on the Mustang forums are very excited about MagneRide. I personally could not care less. It is just totally doesn't seem to be worth it, you know, for a street car, at least one that is tuned the way that they have in the past. Do you want to review the 2018 Camry? I would like to do the V6 since everyone has been requesting it recently. But yeah, so I'd be totally up for doing one. Will you be testing BMW X7? If BMW would like to send me one, they're another company that still won't send me press cars. But it'd be nice to review one at some point since it's an all new vehicle for them. 2018 GTI or 2018 Civic Si. I haven't driven the 2018 GTI, so it's hard for me to say. But the 2017 GTIs and this current gen, the Mark 7s, are really impressive. And I think I actually do prefer the way they feel better than the Civic Si. I think it's a little sharper. So yeah. Other questions here. I'll probably do a couple more and then I'm going to have to go. Why do I like manual transmissions? Simply because it's more engaging. It's more fun to me. And it's just more engaging, more fun. I don't like that automatics a lot of times have a mind of their own, and I find myself hitting the gas pedal and it's not giving me a downshift fast enough, and I just wish I had the control to do it all myself. And so I just like the feel of it. I think it's just more fun. Is it a bad idea to buy a 2004, 2006 Cadillac CTS-V with some miles on it? They seem to be pretty reliable, I think. I haven't been totally up on them recently, but I think they're fairly reliable here. So yeah, I think it would be a good car to purchase. What do you think of the 2014 Q50? I did a review on one of those. You can search for my review of the Q50 and hear all my thoughts on it there. Has anyone ever broken into your car before? No, thankfully, no one has ever broken into any of my cars. But I keep them in garages and stuff, so it's very rarely just sitting out somewhere for long periods of time. Was the Focus RS underwhelming? No, it was fun. It was impressive. Just not my cup of tea, as you'll see if you watch the video of the my week with the Focus RS. It's fun, but not for me personally. Do you have insurance to cover any damages that were to occur if you were reviewing a car? So my auto policy would step in to help. So basically the way it would work, now with press cars, they have their own insurance policies for them. So all they require is that I am insured on a car, my own personal car. As far as reviewing other people's privately owned cars, I fall under their insurance policy as far as you're allowed to let your friend drive the car. So I would be considered a friend driving their car. As long as they give me permission and consent to drive their car, I would be covered under their policy. And of course, if something ever did happen, with someone's car, God forbid, nothing has ever happened, knock on wood. But if something did happen, of course, I would obviously help with that and, pay their deductible or whatever to make sure that, nothing damaged them out of pocket, But like I said, I've been always very safe and careful with other people's cars because that would be an absolute nightmare and something I would never want to happen. So I always take it very safe and haven't had any close calls or any issues with that kind of stuff. All right. Would you ever heavily modify a car just for the fun of it? No, to me, it's not like heavily modified car isn't fun to me just because it's unreliable. It's constantly a money pit. Just takes a ton of time to, fix and tinker with. I don't have time for that. Like I said, I don't even have time to play video games, so I don't have time to be wrenching on a car every other day and trying to get it running and stuff. Just no interest whatsoever. All right. What do you think of muffler deletes? They're great if you don't mind the volume level. I think they sound great. I did enjoy Ava. Ryan's asking about that. It was a lot of fun. It's great hanging out with all those guys and reviewing all those awesome cars. 555 says, when will you start implementing the Doug score in your reviews, the industry standard for rating cars? No time soon. I don't think blanket statements are actually helpful personally with car reviews, at least as far as consumer advice goes. What I think of a car, I always say, well, this car has X, Y, and Z. This is how it feels. And then you can decide for yourself if that's something you like or don't like, instead of me saying this car is a 9 out of 10 in my book. Well, my book isn't your book and you might feel differently. So that's why I kind of just present the information and let you guys make up your own mind about how it rates in your opinion. All right. Favorite car brand? Tough to pick just one. Alpha is one of my current favorites just because the Giulia was so spectacular, and Jag is another one I really love because they just make so many cool cars. But yeah. So Icy Alex is saying, can muffler deletes pass inspection? Depends on the type of inspection you have in your state. I think as long as it doesn't throw a check engine light, usually you'll be fine, but some states do an actual visual inspection as well. But yeah, all right. I'm going to do 2 more questions here and then I'll have to go. All right. So someone's saying, What do you like more, the Lexus ISF or the Honda Civic Type R? Both are fun in very different ways. One's V8 and rear-wheel drive. The other is front-wheel drive and turbo 4-cylinder. Yeah, I think the Lexus ISF I wouldn't want to own just because the technology is pretty outdated. I would like the Type R because it has Apple CarPlay and the faster touchscreen and all that kind of stuff, which is a dumb reason to pick a car, I know. But I think the Type R is just a really impressive car, so that's probably the one I would pick, personally. Mark says he's late to the live stream, so he's going to be the last question I answer here. He says, I'm late on the live stream, but have you already said what cars you're most excited for next year? I haven't said that yet. So I guess the cars I'm most excited for, obviously the Bullitt Mustang when that comes. Otherwise, I think, if there is any kind of higher performing Mustang, that'll be sweet. What else am I excited for next year? I don't know. I'm trying to think of what's new, totally new next year that's coming. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything off the top of my head that I'm super excited about outside of the Bullitt. I think the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, that's going to start arriving next year in dealers. That's going to be really impressive because that just got the Nürburgring lap time record, I think, for SUVs. Should be very impressive. But yeah, so I think that's it for this live stream. Thanks, everyone, for joining in and watching and for all your questions. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And yeah, thanks for your support as always on everything. Like I said at the beginning, be sure to go watch the first episode of the Pull Apart Challenge. The link is in the description below if you haven't already. And yeah, so anyway, thank you guys very much for watching and interacting with this live stream. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.